That was easier than I thought. Almost there. Give me one more minute. Yes, we are live on Twitch. Almost. Yes. Okay. And we are live on YouTube. No thanks. Hello, YouTube. Hello, Twitch. Okay, let me just make sure. Let me get my outline up on my second computer, and then I'm ready to get this party started. Sorry, I was live with facts all morning. I've had a lot, and then I had to run to a pharmacy for my dad. I've just been running around, but everything's good because I'm here now with you. Tap the screen, tap, share the live. I appreciate you guys so much for all your support. Again, this is my Cash App and Venmo. I am trying to pay. I bought this software for clipping that's pretty expensive, and I think I have to pay for it yearly, which is even worse. I hate software that's licensed yearly. But anyways, so if you would like, this is my Cash App and Venmo. All of this small business relies on tips and donations that I just reinvest back into the business. So if you can help me do that, please do. One more thing. I pinned the goal. I got the tap goal. Here's the tap goal. We're getting to 25K as fast as possible. Thank you so much. And then, and today our subscription goal is 500. We're at 468. We're only almost like 200 away from where I was before the first time TikTok shut off and when Trump saved TikTok. I'm just kidding, but that's what the notification told us all. And by the time I probably get back to where I was in subscriptions, then it'll be shut off again. No, I don't know if that will ever happen again, but you know what I'm saying. Okay. Hope everyone had a good weekend. If you were here for Faxes Live this morning, man, we covered so many things. We were talking about the phrase, taking the trash out on Friday nights, when the administration, similar to 1930s Germany, would do a bunch of things in the dead of night on Fridays that they didn't want to be criticized during the week for. We saw that again this week with the Supreme Court at 1 a.m. Eastern time, stopping Trump from mailing more people under the Alien Enemies Act to El Salvador. Thank God. I mean, not that there's not going to be more problems with that. I mean, John Roberts didn't even have the guts to sign it, but at least for now, there's a brief respite. Do I even sleep? I know. I've been I've been up a lot. I'm going to sleep after this, I promise. When I do lives on Mondays with Facts, it's pretty much I get up at 2:30 a.m. and then just once I'm done with the live, then I'll go to sleep. I just get one more drink of water and then I'm starting. We have so many things to go through. And actually, I didn't have to do that much more clipping today because Trump is acting like a toddler at the White House, sitting at tables with children at an Easter egg hunt. The most meaningful clip I saw was when he's actually just sitting with kids. I mean, not that I think kids should be near him or anything, but I was at least this is the most honest, Trump should be at the kids' table asking for the color crayon he needs. That's where his peers are. Actually, no, that's not true. They, as a former second grade teacher, children's brains are firing much faster than his. That's not fair. SCOTUS rulings haven't stopped him so far. What will be different this time? Well, let's be clear. SCOTUS ruling. So It did stop him. And I don't know what, and we can get into this. I mean, there's not that much to get into about the SCOTUS ruling that happened at 1 a.m. Thank you, Bookish, which love that name, also Bookish. Thank you for subscribing and thank you for the hat. I wanted to say, what I was going to say about the Supreme Court ruling is if you don't understand it, it's not just some general ruling, like what was happening. And if you were listening to the People's Receipts on Friday, I was showing you, like I always suggest, follow Aaron Reichlin Melnick. He's one of the foremost immigration attorneys in the country. And he is like live tweeting about all this stuff. And what was happening actually, and had started on Thursday night, were reports that they were gathering another group of probably 75% innocent people to mail to El Salvador under the Alien Enemies Act. There were going to be a couple planes sent out. They were supposed to leave on Friday evening. So that is what was happening. Starting like Friday morning Eastern time, there were tons of lawyers, and they were in all sorts of different courts. They were in courts in Texas. They were in courts in DC. They were all over the country trying to get a judge to do something to stop them to stop the planes from leaving the next batch. And so that's why, and I said, I don't know if you guys remember this, but when I was first talking about how the Supreme Court said, okay, you can keep deporting people under the Alien Enemies Act, right? But no one ever reads the rulings. People just read the headlines and everyone's like, oh, the Supreme Court agrees with Trump. No, actually, that ruling was pretty damning. What it said was, hey, you can do this, but everyone needs due process. People have to have ample time to get counsel and to have their day in court to defend themselves before you do this. And it is, in my opinion, because, okay, wait, let me not get ahead of myself because this is a little bit complicated. The second part of that first ruling, when it seemed like, everyone was just saying the Supreme Court agrees with Trump. Thank you for the hat. The second part of that ruling also said, which to me, I said this, I said, these are delay tactics, right? The good news is the Supreme Court saying, hey, if you're going to do this, they still need due process, which is what we've all been saying. What Senator Van Hollen is saying, hey, I'm not defending anyone's character. What I'm defending is every person's right to their day in court, every person's right to the system working for them or against them. But the system has to work, right? And so the second piece of that first ruling that the Supreme Court came down with was, in my opinion, a delay tactic. What they said was, hey, this was filed in DC court. And that's not, you don't have standing here. These people are being taken in planes from Texas. So you need to refile and start back at zero in the Texas courts, which was very frustrating. It's like, okay, start back at zero. And one of my comments at the time, and I said this, I said, my concern and why I think that they're doing this is because who reigns over Texas? The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, if you don't know, are a bunch of wackos who are auditioning basically to be the next like Alito and Clarence Thomas. Like they are the creme de la creme of the conservative fringe wacko judges who are like, look at me, I'm even crazier than Alito. Pick me, Trump. That's so when I realized, I was like, oh, great. We're never going to get past the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. They're going to slap it down over and over. We may never even get to the Supreme Court if the Supreme Court doesn't want. Maybe that's why they said go through Texas, because they already know the Fifth Circuit's always going to side with Trump, because those are people auditioning to be chosen by Trump for the Supreme Court. Now, here's the most fascinating part, and how John Roberts is like, oh my God, what the have I done? So one of the places, because they said you got to start over and you got to go through Texas, it's got to come through the Fifth Circuit. They had cases that were winding through, and they were in Texas appealing to the Fifth Circuit, trying to get the Fifth Circuit to say stop the planes on Friday. That's one of the jurisdictions that lawyers were in, trying to stop those planes from flying more people to El Salvador. And the Fifth Circuit was like, I mean, by all intents and purposes, they were about to rule in Trump's favor. And let's say this, not even they were going to delay so those planes could leave, basically. And they were just going to be like, oh, our ruling's coming. And it was most likely, and everyone was saying, Kyle Cheney from Politico, everyone was like, oh, the Fifth Circuit's going to rule for Trump and delay it in the process, and the planes are going to leave. And then the Supreme Court, and not the Supreme Court, because Alito and Clarence Thomas Alito wrote a scathing dissent because he's a wacko, and so is Clarence. Thurgood Marshall is rolling around in his grave thinking, how did this weirdo replace me on the Supreme Court? Clarence Thomas is a disappointment. But all of a sudden, the rest of them, including John Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett, I mean, that's how concerned they are about what Trump's up to. That they knew the Fifth Circuit was going to rule, did not even care, and wrote an unsigned order in the dead of night and was like, stop the planes. And that's why it was so imminent. It's because planes were going to take off and they did not want them to. But for them to suddenly jump over, essentially, like the Supreme Court to be like, F the Fifth Circuit, get out of here. Like, we can't count on you guys to do the right thing. I mean, that's what John Roberts essentially did. John Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett sided with the liberals and basically said, we already know what the Fifth Circuit's going to do. We don't like it. So we're just going to step in and stop everything and pause everything. It's a Band-Aid. It's not a solution. They're not even ruling on many things that are unconstitutional. It's just a short Band-Aid, but it shows. And I've done a lot of reading on this all weekend while I was running and walking. And I'll say this. I've said this many times. Trump is overshooting the goal, right? Like, Trump is doing harm to Trump. If Trump had shown in any way, like let me say, he could proceed with the authoritarian agenda with his plans to disappear people unlawfully. If he had just on the surface just been like, okay, what the Supreme Court's telling me is just, okay, bring back this one guy, and not, again, it's not about Kilmer Abrego Garcia will probably never live here again, right? Like, he can be deported to any other country in the world, just not the one where he was sent, right? He's going to get a day in court. But if Trump had just listened, brought back that one guy, probably, and think about how many others are there. There's 19-year-old innocent, the gay hairdressers there, did nothing wrong. We know over 75% of those people are not just not wartime criminals or theists. They've never even committed a crime in their lives outside of the misdemeanor of crossing the border. And in some cases, not even that. So if he had just done, for show, brought back Kilmar, probably just gave him his show day in court and then deported him anyways, I don't think the Supreme Court would have done that. But what the Supreme Court is showing is, hey, we gave you some instructions. You are showing us that you absolutely cannot follow directions, so we can no longer trust you. The specific thing we told you not to do, we now have lawyers in different jurisdictions all over the country delivering evidence that you are doing the few things we asked you not to do, that you are denying due process. We told you, great, use the insane Alien Enemies Act, which he should not be using. And they should probably take issue with that. But all they ask them is, hey, you just got to give people their day in court. But the reality is Trump doesn't have any evidence to present in court. I've said this before. If Trump had evidence like that one guy where they had the hour and 30-minute press conference and said they had caught the East Coast leader of MS-13, and then all of a sudden all the charges were dropped. If they had the evidence to show in court, what is it? And I clipped Chris Van Hollen's press conference because I like it so much. Oh, thank you, Bookish, for the giveaway sub. W Bookish just sent a giveaway sub. Thank you so much. If they had any of, Chris Van Hollen kept saying, put up or shut up, and in his press conference, and then again on Sunday, I'll show you the clips. He was on political shows on Sunday morning saying, if you got the evidence, all you have to do is show up to court and show it. That's it. Put up the evidence or shut up. Right? And that's the bottom line. But Trump can't do that because they don't have the evidence. because most of these people, it's turning out, these are random tips from MAGA. MAGA aren't, historical researchers. They're not inspector generals. This isn't good information, right? And it turns out, like I've talked about before, that Kilmar Abrego Garcia, he's in the situation, he is on double hearsay, right? The cop who said he heard from someone else actually never even showed up to court. If cops don't show up to court in criminal court, again, immigration court's a little different. The burden of proof is different, right? That would never fly. Double hearsay. A guy who it turned out is not credible and had to be removed and is in trouble because he was sharing vital information about cases with an SEX worker or whatever. So too. Is literally the reason and we never heard from the alleged confidential informant. It's just corrupt police officer said someone said. Literal double hearsay. That's why Trump can't have the day in court, why Trump can't do due process, why most of the students being removed, it's on that random law where if the Secretary of State says, so you don't need any evidence. It's the same thing with Rumeysa Öztürk, right? The Tufts University graduate. At first, they were trying to remove her under a different immigration law that would have required evidence, but they didn't have any. So then they had to change it to, the Secretary of State just thinks you shouldn't be here anymore. Because these people don't have any evidence. That's the problem. And like I said, if Trump had just brought back Kilmar, none of this, he probably could still go on with his authoritarian nightmare. But he can't give people due process. So he's in this pickle because he doesn't have the evidence. So what do you do? I don't know. And we'll get into that, but that's a good question. Thank you for asking. Oh my gosh, sorry. The New York Times update just came into my email about Kristi Noem's purse, which I'll show you. I found a quick clip from Aaron Parnas that I'll show. If you guys haven't heard, apparently Kristi Noem's purse was stolen. I don't know. She's saying there was $3,000 cash in it. I'm like, who the carries around $3,000 cash? Or maybe it's that so it can be a higher level of crime if they ever catch who did it. I know, Cindy. And I wasn't feeling good today. I almost didn't do this live, but then I was like, no, I will be here today. So I'm glad I'm here too, because now that I'm here, I'm glad I am. Catherine, thank you so much for the $5 for the coffee break. I appreciate it so much. You're amazing. No, I know. I am fighting through my tiredness to be here. Let me show you first this Kristi Noem clip I'm talking about in case you guys don't know, which I don't even think Aaron Parnas goes into. I was going to say the details, which I don't know. Kristi, some of this, it's just wonder what's in that purse that they're so worried about. I wonder. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying what kind of devices are in there and what's on them. They seem very concerned about my guess is something in there is not going to end well. Thank you, Bookish, for another giveaway sub. Lulu said so. Just got a free subscription. W Bookish in the chat. We appreciate you so much. It's like Christmas. It's like little surprises. Here, let me find this. Here, I'll show you this, and then I'll show you. Here. Oh no! Don't start TikTok. Do not start. We've had such a good day. Streamlabs fixed their app. Like, I'm having a great day with tech. Normally, I feel like I'm fighting technology at every turn. It's like, don't start. I'm doing so well with technology not ruining my life today. Here, this is just like from Caitlin Collins. This is the headline. A thief stole Kristi, I unalive my own pets in gravel pits Noem's bag this weekend, including her driver's license, medication, apartment keys, passport, DHS access badge, makeup bag, blank checks. Okay, boomer, and about 3,000. Where can you write a check? Somebody tell me. In what capacity are people writing checks in the world anymore? Where were your traveler's checks, Kristi? Did you have any of those or those things? Blank checks at about $3,000 in cash. I mean, come on. I feel like the amount of money is questionable. They just have to say that so they can make it like the biggest felony ever. I don't know. Who's carrying around $3,000 in cash? I don't actually. When I dated a rich person, maybe. But I mean, that was a baseball player, so who was frequenting strip clubs. So that's a different story for another time. It's Monday. Sorry, I need to get one more drink of water. Okay, so this was just post from Caitlin Collins, who's the reporter that Trump's always terrorizing in the press corps from CNN. But let me show you. This is Aaron Parnas's post about it. Oh, I thought I had a screenshot. I probably did. I'm just going the wrong way. Oh yeah, this was okay. Here we go.
News right now, the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem had her purse stolen at a restaurant in Washington, D.C., despite having Secret Service protection. According to latest reports from CNN and elsewhere, Kristi Noem had...
Do you understand? Does this seem a little weird to anyone? Does this seem a little weird? You have a Secret Service detail and nobody, not you, not the people you're with, and not your Secret Service detail can keep track of your belongings?
$3,000 in cash in her purse that was all taken, along with her passport, ID, and other belongings.
Yeah, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I have no proof for what I'm saying. I'm just saying the probability of this seems strange, and I'm just saying this is how my brain works. If I knew that some information somehow, not in the way I'm now describing, but let's say someone got a hold of my phone and I now fear that all the data in it could be used against me. You know what I'm saying? Then I might invent a story like this so that whatever then comes out after, I could kind of say, hey, it's not my fault. Do you know what you know what I'm saying? It's the same way like Pete Hegseth's firing all these random people. Hey, it doesn't matter how many random people underneath you fire, Pete. None of them were sending war plans to your wife and your mailman and whoever the F else. Like this story to me makes no sense. Again, I have no evidence to say that. I'm just a highly intelligent person. And this is the type of thing I would say if I knew there was a possibility that information about me was about to come out.
Now, this begs the question, how, number one, did Secret Service essentially allow a secretary of the Department of Homeland Security's purse to be stolen at a restaurant when she has Secret Service protection? Number two, why is the Department of Homeland Security secretary carrying around $3,000 in cash just on a random day going to dinner? Number three, what are the next steps? What is going to be done to prevent a future secretary's belongings from being stolen when they are out and about in Washington, D.C. or anywhere else, really? You can read the full story on CNN's website. I'll have a full breakdown on my Substack, link to my bio.
See what I'm saying? I'm not the only one. Aaron Parnas is a real journalist. Thank you, Bookish, for the giveaway sub. Brooke, you got a subscription from Bookish. W Bookish in the chat. You're amazing. I love this. It's we keep getting some... It's like Christmas when you open one present every hour. Okay, thank you guys for reminding me about the goals. I'm taking care of it right meow. Okay, did the gift goal, updated the tapping goal. Keep tapping. We're almost to 5K to the one person tapping right now. I appreciate you. I see you. Let's all get to tapping. But yeah, I'm just going to continue pointing out that to me, if you have a Secret Service detail, it makes no logical sense that your purse is lost. I'm sorry. And I'm just going to say this. At every turn, the Trump administration has proved themselves incompetent, and not just incompetent when it comes to preventing dumb things from happening, but then incompetent from the lies they tell when they're covering them up. Do you understand what I'm saying? This to me just seems like incompetence on top of incompetence. What Secret Service agent, what details letting her walk out without her stuff? There's literally people following behind her. None of that makes any sense, is all I'm saying. But whenever Kristi Noem's scared of coming out, if and when it does, I think Kristi Noem might have been hacked and she's very concerned. But again, R.I.P. Kristi Noem's purse. Hopefully she gets it back. That's very weird. If I have a Secret Service detail, you can't even protect her purse? What are we doing here, people? What, a pickpocket? Did Oliver Twist come and get through the Secret Service? Got through her Secret Service detail somehow and got her purse? Does any of that make any sense. Yeah, Pete Hegseth has not been fired. Whoever is telling you, if I hear one more person, yeah, Pete Hegseth is never being fired, and people keep saying that he's being fired. But yeah, we'll get to that. And actually, today there is probably more of a reason to think that because, again, like I said, the Trump administration is incompetent. So Trump is right now very angry because he's lurking around at the kids' table, pretending to color with children. And then in between that, which this is the weirdest scene of all time, right? There's like 5-year-olds and Pete Hegseth and Trump who are trying to pretend to be having good time at like an Easter egg hunt / coloring fest. And then every once in a while they get up and start screaming at the camera that Pete Hegseth is innocent and then sit back down with the weird kids. It's so creepy what is going on at the White House today. And the reason you might, or like I said, all last week, people kept thinking Pete Hegseth was being fired. But just to be clear, what happened last week was they were like, again, because they probably got word. If you don't understand how the press works, right? The news that came out yesterday about Pete Hegseth, that there's a second signal chat involving anyone, pretty much anybody that asked Pete Hegseth is like, will you respect me more if I give you war plans or whatever? So there's a second signal chat. And they probably were contacted, this is my guess, by whoever broke that story and said, hey, like, we have proof of this. Like, we have the screenshots. We know this signal chat existed. So then last week, they started firing all these people. Ironically now, and I'm saying this is a chicken or the egg thing, right? Did people get fired? And then this is how you think critically. So I'm not telling you what the answer is. I'm asking you to think. One of two options. It's a chicken or the egg. Let's say, did they know this was coming because they were contacted by the press for comment, right? Because that's what happens. Before a story comes out that it's going to come out. And then they're like, in order to cover this up, we've got to fire a bunch of people and pin this on them, which again, it's very similar to the Mike Waltz signal gate. No amount of people you fire change the fact that it's Pete Hegseth that created this signal chat, and there's a verifiable proof of that, and then sent war plans to his wife, and his lawyer, and all these other randos. None of that changes however many people you fire. Or okay, so that's one option. Or were these people fired because, they've been saying, we think people are leaking information from the DOD and we're going to find you. And they were even giving people lie detector tests. So did they fire people? And then out of being like, fine, I've never done a thing wrong, but guess who was doing a bunch of dumb stuff? My boss, and I have the screenshots. Do you know what I'm saying? So it could go either way. I don't know what order it happened in, but I do know from all my reading about this second signal chat that ironically, at least a couple of the people who were fired were on it. These were close people to Pete, people that worked with Pete prior to the Department of Defense, who were on the second signal chat. So that's what I'm saying. To me, when I think logically, it's a chicken or the egg, right? Like either they were fired and they're like, oh, you're lying on me, Pete, to save your ass. Well, how about we talk about your second signal chat that's like your wife and your hairdresser and your mailman and whoever else, or they knew this was coming out, and Pete's like, it has to be one of the people on the chat that told.
That paper is more sophisticated.
So it's process of, you tell me. We may never know the answer, but that's what I assume. And I sent a Politico article in the group chat because one of the things that came out was Pete, the guy that resigned on Friday. That was another time when everyone thought Pete Hegseth was quitting, but it was his chief of staff who was basically resigning and saying for Politico, Pete Hegseth needs to be removed. He's completely, the DOD is in absolute chaos. There's leaks everywhere. No one trusts him. He's a fool. You can read that article. I sent it to everyone in the general chat. Well, I added everyone. So you probably have a notification with it. So I think, and watching Trump and Pete Hegseth at this creepy Easter egg hunt while trying to convince everyone that everyone's fine, and I talked about this on Faxes Live, but this is just some more food for thought. Just as someone, I just watch people's behavior. The big difference between Trump and his first term and Trump in his second term is in Trump's first term, right? He was always looking for a human shield. Okay, like I feel embarrassed because I'm new and I don't know how things work. So I'm just going to hold this person up in front of me, fire them and say, it's not me, it's them. Right? I'm not saying he's not doing that in some ways now, but Trump, take two, 100% unapologetic. He's never going to fire anyone. Trump is now bending reality, right? I mean, Pete Hegseth could pass out face down, intoxicated during the Easter egg hunt on the lawn with a 40 in his hand, and Trump would be like, never happened. We could all watch it happen, and he'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's a great leader. Like that's Trump's first term. He's not going to do what he did last time. I mean, that's my observation. That's like something he seemed to been resolved to do, because remember, Trump's not looking for competence. Trump is looking for dumb, blind loyalty, right? I'm not saying, and I want to be clear, I'm not saying he would never fire anyone. I am saying anytime that something went wrong in Trump's first term, like Trump fired an unprecedented number of people, right? It's just, if someone said, hey, something's going wrong in the Trump administration, someone was immediately fired. Now Trump denies reality, right? Trump is bending reality to his will. That's why I say don't watch. And I know Don Lemon says turn off the TV, but I think people are getting confused by that. We're not saying turn off the TV like you're watching TV like it's 1995. Like Trump is putting on a reality show, right? Of disinformation, misinformation, and propaganda. His version of reality, 24 hours a day. It starts on Fox News in the morning. Then it goes to KKK, Caroline Leave It. Then it goes on to whatever leader Trump has trapped in full office, and he's going to humiliate and act weird around that day. And then he answers a bunch of questions, and tells his version of reality, right? And in Trump's version, Pete Hegseth does no wrong. So that's what I'm saying. He will never need to fire someone because Trump is pushing his own version of reality. And in Trump's version of reality, he does no wrong. And I've always said this, narcissists see people in two ways, right? In Trump's first term, he saw the people that worked for him as pawns who were disposable, right? And that's why they were always under the wheels of the bus. Now, and in his second term, he sees people like, I always say I was raised by a malignant narcissist, just one that's actually very intelligent. My mother has an extremely high IQ. And now Trump treats the people that work for him like my mother treats me. I'm an extension of her, right? So in a way, I'm not disposable because I am her, right? I'm an extension of her. I actually don't exist, right? My mother's getting older, so she just sees all my accomplishments, everything as her, right? And that's how Trump is now treating people, right? The Trump administration as a whole is an extension of him. He is God. Therefore, nobody makes a mistake. And that's the difference. I know this is getting deep and it's getting psychological, but that's the actual difference between lying and what narcissists do, which is called confabulation. It's a psychological need, right? If you believe you're God, and this is a survival strategy from when they are first denied by their primary attachment, their mother, right? And they just say, their mother, right? And they just say, okay, I'm never going to be rejected again. I am God. God can't be rejected, right? And now that's being projected out. That's what confabulation is. Their reality is that they're God and God makes no mistakes. So confabulation is, I call it wallpapering over reality so that reality is congruent with the idea that you're God. God doesn't make mistakes, right? That's confabulation. It's different than lying. I mean, it's primal. It is his survival strategy. But I'm not saying narcissists can't lie. They absolutely can. I'm just explaining the difference between, I mean, it is reinventing. It's making reality congruent with the delusion that you can do no wrong. And I almost didn't do this live. Look at me go. I was not feeling well earlier. Okay. Let's move on from that because we have a ton of things to talk about. Yeah. So if you understand Trump, and I'm not saying forgive Trump, but what you have to understand is that and there's a difference. And that's the problem with what we're doing in America, right? When when your boyfriend cheats on you and lies, and then we say, oh, he's a narcissist. That's what's wrong with America. Because actually, psychology will say maybe 2 to 5% of the population have narcissistic personality disorder. It's a very small amount. You can have narcissistic traits, right? Addiction can sometimes mimic narcissistic traits, but very few people, I think it is higher than 2 to 5%. I just want to be clear, but it's less than people think, right? Narcissistic personality disorder is an absence, right? You can have cognitive empathy. And when I say cognitive, I mean, narcissists can look at you. I see it in my mom's eyes all the time. It's like she knows I am hurting my daughter. It's like she knows it cognitively, but does she have what we think of as empathy, which is effective empathy? Can she put herself in my shoes and feel my pain and understand and feel I'm hurting someone?
More sophisticated now than computers.
Right? So that's the thing. Narcissists cannot grow empathy. But so when we look for narcissists to become better, because I talk about this all the time, I love my mother very much, even though, I mean, she's hurt me a lot, but I'd still love her. She cannot grow empathy. Trump cannot grow empathy, but you can learn over time. If I do not modify my behavior, I'm going to end up alone and nobody will speak to me, right? They are capable of behavior modification. They just cannot grow empathy. And when you're talking about someone like Trump with that much power, he's never going to need to modify his behavior. But he's been afforded the resources that it's going to be very hard for Trump to be put in a situation where he would learn the lesson of, oh, I need to modify my behavior. And I think the closest he ever came is all of those court cases. Do you see the rage that is coming out of him now? He is seething. He was humiliated. He felt insecure. He felt uncertain. He didn't know what was going to happen. And he is now saying, I hold everybody responsible for you making me feel insecure. I talk about this all the time, about the pathology of malignant narcissism. And again, I'm not talking about sometimes people can have narcissistic traits. I'm talking about people truly who have narcissistic personality disorder, right? Like they are deeply, right? It's all a facade. What you see with Trump, that is a house of mirrors and a facade. It's the God, I am God facade, as I like to call it. What's underneath all that? Nothing. They're an infant, right? Trump has been this way since he was very, oh my God, it had the cap on. I thought I spilled my water bottle. I didn't. Since he was an infant, right? And this is early childhood development stuff. And that's why I say, I'm not asking you to have empathy for Trump, but I think there's a difference between people like myself who were truly raised by people with narcissistic personality disorder. It's also a reason I have a lot of empathy for Donald Trump Jr. I see so much of myself in him and his his addiction issues and things like that. Like, yeah. Oh yeah. Donald Trump Jr. is me in my 20s. Like 100%. Like just wandering around being like, I want a hug from my dad. If I say all these things, will I get it? Oh my God, I won't. Like, yeah, that was me. But anyways, like the difference is Donald Trump has been this way since early childhood development. This happens very early, especially with narcissists. And it's a defense. It's a set of survival skills, right? He was put through we all know, if you don't know anything about Trump's dad, no, he's not a good guy. Trump was put in such an extreme abusive environment that in order to survive, this is the set of survival skills that he developed. And I always hear people say, well, studies show that narcissists have less gray matter or whatever in their brain and stuff. I think that's another chicken or the egg argument, right? Like, I don't think it's that it's genetic and just certain people are going to, I know it's not. You have to be raised by one and end up like me to understand how, like, the cycle. But it's not that, it's that your brain develops differently. And this is why people don't like when I say this, people with psychology degrees. I'm not saying that there aren't double-blind, valid psychological studies. I'm saying because we don't understand consciousness, psychology are theories, right? And so that's all. I mean, we don't understand consciousness, but I would think of the brain as the vehicle and consciousness, is the driver, right? And how your brain develops is dependent on how you're driving that vehicle, right? So yeah, like maybe parts of the brain are underdeveloped in narcissists because at a very young age, when their primary attachment, which if you don't know what I mean by that, I mean mom, they're put in extreme environments, extremely abused, and they learn that they cannot count on their primary attachment. So they say, I don't want to feel this way. I don't ever want to be rejected again. I'm God. No one rejects God, right? It's a survival strategy. And after that, the need for empathy no longer exists. So, I mean, and I can promise you, Trump will never stop until we stop him. So when I say every single thing we are doing, do not ever count on anyone to stand up to a narcissist. It's a very scary thing to do. And what you're seeing is different levels of being able to reckon with this, to understand what's happening, right? Like, and some people, and I say this and I mean it, like, I used to wonder, like, I did not want to be alive for a long time based on the amount of torture I was put through as a child. Like, now I know why I sat in closets for days without food. For this, like, I have a unique skill set. I'm now Liam Neeson. No, I literally, if you were raised in extreme environments of trauma and abuse, and you're wondering, hey, what's it all been for? I'm not saying like this is fate or anything. I don't believe in that. But I'm saying you now have a unique skill set. Whether you were raised by one of the few real people with narcissistic personality disorder or someone who was mimicking those traits, you now understand. You understand how adverse those environments are, and you understand what it actually takes to stop somebody with that type of pathology, right? We have to stop him ourselves. Exactly. Thank you, Carol. That's a great point. And that's why on Friday, if you were here for the People's Receipts, which, by the way, it's a good time to mention, if you weren't here, all the replays are available on YouTube. Follow me on YouTube, and then right now we're live on YouTube. We're live on Twitch. Oh, I need to tell you guys something about Facebook later. That's a whole other story. But soon we'll finally be live in 60 days. We'll finally be live on Facebook. After 3 months, finally got someone to contact me back from Facebook to explain why I cannot push my lives to Facebook. I had to create an actual business account that had to be linked to an Instagram business account, like for actual creators or businesses. Like it has to be like a page versus, a person. So I'm going to need you all to refollow me. That's not important today because we have 60 days and 60 days have to go by. And then it will be in time for the midterms. We'll be live on Facebook. Even I hate Mark Zuckerberg, but we got to reach the people, that are yelling about their, the MAGA people who are in like the flea market Facebook groups too. We've got to connect to these people. I just told you integrity. It's because the midterms, right? Like whether we like it or not, people in rural America The people on Facebook, older folks in rural America, these are the people who are going to be most damaged by Trump. This is where hospitals are closing first. This is where, because of school vouchers, there are no private schools. Public schools are just going to close or become so underfunded that their children are not going to have the resources they need, right? I mean, we have to reach these people. So just like when I created that other Facebook profile that now everyone followed, now I have a girl has no name like creator page that we all need to follow. But like, we don't need to worry about that today. We'll get to it later. It's because it's just people, what we're talking about now, people need to hear. Right. And even I'll say this, like people that follow authoritarians like Trump, they were raised by authoritarian fathers. A lot of people have asked me why I have so many friends that are Republicans, or I could bond so well with so many men that in a lot of people's minds were so awful. Thank you, Bookish, for the giveaway sub. You're amazing. Real Life Works, you got a sub from Bookish. Thank you so much, Bookish, W Bookish. It's because, people that follow authoritarians and become angry, like you have a couple choices when you're abused, right? You can figure out why, you can face it all, you can work through your stuff, or you can become very angry. You become MAGA, right? You refuse new information. You follow people that remind you of the abuser that you started with, right? So, I mean, I actually can relate to people that follow Trump very well. I was raised by a smart Trump. Imagine knowing me if you've watched my lives. What type of two parents must you have to create this? Like my entire childhood was like an 18-year battle for survival. When I came, I was saying this, I was talking to Fax and Matt about this. When I was, which this is a great opportunity to mention, on Wednesday, the 23rd, Night Live. I've mentioned this now several times, but hopefully if you haven't heard it, you're hearing it now. Facts still matter. USMC Angry Veteran, Matt, and I will be doing a night live. It will start at 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Fax and I have been talking about this for a while, the need for virtual town halls, ways to promote, talk about causes, but also promote candidates, leading up to the midterms. But as democracy has eroded faster than any of us predicted, there's no point in waiting. We will probably not have a country before the midterms. So we're going to discuss all this. There will be probably opportunities to request. We want to hear from people. We want feedback and ideas, because this is just going to grow into something. Yes, Kristen, 2 pinkies and a brain, or our group chat is called 2 Santas and a Lady, which I don't think Steve likes. But now I'm not going to say, because I don't think he wants me to say, but I'll say this. I had no idea, and some people may know, I had no idea how old Matt was and how old Steve was. And I will say, Steve looks absolutely amazing for his age. Matt, if you don't know how old Matt is, again, I'm not saying how old anyone is. It's not my place, but both things are it's just crazy. Steve looks absolutely amazing for his age. Someone just said my father was a combination of Trump and Hegseth. Then so you're uniquely set. And I am not suggesting anyone have sympathy for people following MAGA, but I do think that having an understanding of how you come to be in groups like this, if you were raised in an authoritarian household, right? That is the next logical step. Why not be in an authoritarian political movement? Seems a lot like home, right? And I say that more for how would women get involved in that, right? A lot of women were raised in that. People don't understand why I have so much sympathy for men in the patriarchy, particularly white men. It's because I was raised steeped in patriarchy. I can't describe it. All of that, there are no emotions. If you cry, I'm going to kick you in the head. That was my childhood. Literally, I understand why men are devoid of emotion, why they are punching down. When I was 18, this is where I was going. I got off track talking about Matt and Steve's ages, but that's where I was going. When I was 18, I was the most bitter, angry, dehumanized person. I had a Division I scholarship, and I showed up at school. I was basically like an animal. I was very good at sports, but I was operating by a set of survival skills that no one understood why that was happening, especially because the package I gave it looked very different than the way I behaved. I couldn't even have any friends that were women because women were too in touch with their emotions, and I was so closed off. What sport did I play? I played volleyball. I was better at basketball, but my mom said that only lesbians played basketball. So she preferred, because volleyball players wore ribbons in her hair and they looked less gay. And because, I told her that I liked girls and boys as a 7th grader, that I stayed away from basketball because she was convinced it was turning me gay. Yeah. I also was raised in extreme evangelicalism. My mom signed a permission slip when I was 12 years old to have the gay prayed out of me at my Christian school. Oh, yeah. Like, if you wonder how someone ends up like this, and my mom still thinks she did all the right things. Yeah, don't you worry. Imagine having everyone in your junior high touching you and praying for you not to be gay anymore. When all you said was, hey, I think I like girls and boys. I had never even kissed someone, held someone's and I want to quote what they told me at my Christian school before the whole school had to pray the gay out of me. They said that the demon of homosexuality had entered me. This was just a regular Christian school, and that they needed to then cast it out. It didn't work, though. That's the weirdest thing. Liked boys and girls then, like boys and girls now. Prayer did not work in that case. But, it was very traumatizing. But that's what I'm saying. Now I've learned that all of that trauma and everything I've learned, and the way, because there's two options. My siblings are totally normal. Their option was flight, like, just be quiet. I just happened to, every time someone kicked me, I was like, I'm just going to get back up and answer back, so that's how I became so like I am now, so stubborn, so capable of shutting people down in debate, because I was never allowed to speak, and I was always screaming to be heard. That's what you're witnessing now. The inner child that couldn't talk, that was always fighting to be heard, now fighting back. Yeah, and look, it made me stronger, and now I'm uniquely positioned and qualified to fight the narcissist that's trying to ruin all of our lives. So it will be like it's almost like it's fate. There is no fate, but you guys get what I'm saying. Well, let's get off the psychology of Donald Trump and why we're all doing. Oh my God. Actually, I needed to show you guys something. This pops up. I don't know. The X, don't go on X. Okay. It's not safe for anyone's mental health, but I have to keep an eye on these people. So that's why I'm on there. And I just want to show you because, oh my God. And I don't know why this popped up in my algorithm, except this was posted in last August, right? Like Kamala was running for president last August. And this man posted this, and it popped up again in my algorithm. I have no idea why, except for I did leave some very rude comments on this X page a couple weeks ago, because she just is like, she's full MAGA and posts all these crazy things. So I get very upset. And it's like, I would describe her as like a Moms for Liberty type. And so she's always like, praise the Lord. The Lord is working through Trump, and all of this stuff. And it drives me absolutely nuts. Okay. So I just want to remind everyone of why we're in the position we're in, because I saw this video in August and it infuriated me, and for some reason it popped up on my profile again. And I just want to show you, there are thousands of comments underneath this of MAGA, Moms for Liberty, being like, he's the future, he's a genius, Black men are going to save us from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. These are the things. Now, I want everyone to think about the actual facts, because I know that MAGA can't do math and or read, and everything I'm talking about is data driven and fact based. But this post went viral on X, and I just want to show you Also, if you ever want to just be instantly famous, if you're a brown or black person, just join MAGA. All you got to do is just spew their rhetoric as if you have melanin, and they'll just be like, he's a genius. This man's a hero. Which also, I feel like I need to look up his account because I also don't believe anything this guy is saying, and I didn't believe it then. He's claiming he has all these, like, he's acting like he's a liberal, or hold on, I'm going to look up just before I show you this BS, because you're going to be prepared to be infuriated. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt bad. No, wait, that's not even him. Hold on. For a second, I was like, oh my God, maybe he's not lying. Maybe he does have a lot of followers. Oh my God, he does have 1 million followers. Okay, I'm just checking. I guess this guy has 1 million followers on TikTok, just for the record. So it makes him seem a lot less nuts. But I think now looking at his profile, I think he has it for politics. He's acting like he has it for some other reason. But just prepare. This is the type of post that was going viral in August, and the reason Kamala lost the election.
You know how many partners?
Wait, and one last thing. Every single word he's talking about, Trump has done the opposite. Trump has driven this economy into the ground. And it's funny listening to him act like one day everyone's going to say I'm right. No, it turns out every single thing you're saying is wrong.
I'm going to lose for making this video. Do you know how many partnerships? I can see him calling me right now. I'm about to lose a lot of money, but I don't care. I ain't never done nothing for the money. I've never done nothing to make other people happy. I say what I want to say when I want to say it. I'm for sure voting Trump 2024. Ain't no question in the world, dude. I am voting Trump 2024. And I ain't a liberal, so I can tell you why I'm going to do something.
Computers.
Saying he's liberal. Someone should go back and research if he really was, or this is something he's saying. I don't know. It's the John Dawson. JONDAWSON.
Okay, the reason I'm going to vote Trump 2024 is because one main reason. This man getting the people treatment. He's getting the people treatment. He ain't getting treated like a billionaire. He ain't getting treated like a president. He ain't getting treated like a politician. He's getting treated like me. He's getting treated like me. And the people that I despise, the elites, the people that don't answer to the same law that I answer to, the people that can literally bat an eye and say, hey, make that disappear from me, and it's gone, the people that never get challenged on the disrespectful BS that they commit every single day, I can't stand. But this man's getting popped for things commoners don't even get popped for. This man is under scrutiny more than a black man downtown Compton with a bag of good in his pocket. This man is being sick.
He's serious. Now, I just want you to think about and I want you to know, because like I worked, if you don't know, and some of you know, I was a creator for Kamala. I live in a swing state. I worked worked for free. I don't ever want to be paid for political views because I feel like that cheapens the whole thing. The only money I take in support is tips and donations from you all. I'm not paid in any way for my political views, just to be clear. But I was essentially a volunteer creator for Kamala because I do think some people are paid. I was not. So when I worked on the campaign, this is one of the narratives. If you don't remember, one of the strongest narratives was amongst the, what was it? Blacks for Trump. Sorry, for a second I forgot what they were called. Which every time there was allegedly a Blacks for Trump meeting, it was like in a black church, but no one in the audience was black. It was the strangest thing. But in that group, this was the narrative that I don't want to say that. Well, he's saying it, but Trump said it, right? Just to be clear. Trump said, look, black people, I'm like you. They keep putting me in jail, which is very interesting because that, to me, right? My father is a black man who speaks Spanish, if you don't know. So I am part black. I just don't say that. I say I'm multiracial because I have too much white privilege, in my opinion, to be claiming that. But I just want to say I do have a stake and I have a reason to be very angry about this. Imagine the insult. This is how I took it every time I heard it. For people saying that Kamala Harris wasn't black. I mean, that's what Trump was saying, that she's not black. And he was saying, I relate to black people because I'm a criminal. I've been to jail. And this man is like, yeah, that makes sense. No, that's an insult. He's insulting you. The other line of logic was immigrants are stealing black jobs. Do you know how insulting that is to say? Black women are the most educated cross-section of America. And Trump was saying that the jobs that undocumented immigrants are doing, working in fields, working in hotels, whatever, was, hey, don't worry, black people, I'm going to get rid of the immigrants so you can get in the fields. Remember the last time black people were in the fields in America, circa the transatlantic slave trade? So I'm only saying this as someone with a history degree, because to see a black man carrying water for Donald Trump in this way is disturbing. And I'm saying that, and I want to be very clear. My father is a Trump voter, right? And my father is a person who in Arizona could not swim in the whites only pool. He had to swim in the canal, right? I mean, when he was a child, and when I say that my dad has been through abuses and horrific things that I can't even, I've been through trauma. I can't even imagine. My dad has been through a nightmare. So it's a psychological hyper assimilation. If you can't beat them, join them at some point. But this is the reality, and it gets worse. Prepare.
Through a sifter so fine that they're checking what type of toilet paper he uses to make sure there's nothing illegal in it. And this man is now a felon. One of the only people in politics, period, that's a felon. And y'all acting like you're fighting against the system when you are on the same side as the universities, the mainstream media, 99% of politicians, every manufacturing company that does their business overseas. You think you're fighting the system when your entire face is plastered over Target, Nike, Walmart every time your month comes around. You think you're fighting against the machine when you literally go to universities and they preach what you preach. Please, you are not going against the system. You are just not smart enough to realize you are the fuel and the cogs in the machine you don't even understand is bending you over a barrel. This is what's insane to me. Fight the system. How can you fight the system, Becky? You are literally the thing that makes the system work. Dye your hair something other than purple, get a brain, and come back again, and let's see what we can do.
Imagine being this unintelligent. Imagine literally propping up the people that are robbing you. And I'm saying this because I think enough time has gone by now, and I don't know why this popped up in my algorithm on X, but I had seen it when he put it out the first time. I saw it go viral at X, and all these MAGA women being like, "Oh, praise the Lord, He's going to save us. He's leading the brown and black people to the truth." Like, that's what the comments underneath this video say. I just want clear. And this is not, I'm not even talking about his original video. I'm talking about MAGA, like Moms for Liberty, reposting it, because that's where I got this. Every word he is saying is factually untrue, right? Who's robbing us? Billionaires. Same people who've been robbing us since we started saying the words trickle down economics. The same people have been robbing us. Who are being disproportionately incarcerated? Brown and black men. Under whose policies, right? Primarily conservative policies. How do we know that brown and black people are being discriminated against in society? It's not a feeling that I have. It's called statistical analysis. I know that because of statistical analysis. Now, I'm not saying, and no moderate Democrats have ever supported bills or brought bills that also have discriminated against brown and black people. I'm not saying there is no racism in people's hearts. I am saying that by and large, when I run statistical analyses and I start factoring in who is responsible for the legislation, who primarily voted for the legislation that has disproportionately discriminated against brown and black people in this country, it's conservatives, particularly in the South, right? Most of that legislation from states and legislation that ends up being federal, it originates in the South, and let's just include Ohio. Let's just group Ohio with the South at this point, because they're 12th in poverty in the nation. We might as well just move them on down They're down there anyways. Thank you, Bookish, for another giveaway sub. And I think I missed another one. I think there might have been 2 giveaway subs. So I'm just saying, I mean, imagine being this brainwashed. I wonder if he has changed his mind. My guess is no, because he has 1 million followers. It's the same thing. Whenever I debate, if you don't know who Joel Patrick is, he's another black man who has 1 million followers who likes to debate MAGA viewpoints. Like I said, if you have melanin and you want to get a bunch of followers, just start yelling this stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's made him a little money. It's all fact. It's not fact based in any way, right? I have read every court document about Trump. If anything, Trump has gotten away with crime after crime after crime. The percentage of crimes that Trump has been held accountable for. And I'm talking about even a day in court, even an indictment versus what he's never faced accountability for. I mean, it's wild. He is Teflon. Trump is the Teflon Don. Forget, what was that guy's name? John Gotti? No, forget John. Trump is the Teflon Don. Oh, it's very possible. So he might have purchased his followers. I'm not saying they're natural. I know nothing about this man's following and if he purchased them or not. Anyone can purchase followers. I know people on the left that have purchased their followers. So it's like, I'm not going to hate on anyone one way or the other because I think that happens. I have never purchased a follower. I just want to be clear. And that's part of the reason I have a hard time getting to 200,000 followers. I've been at like 192,000 followers for the longest time. If you're not following me, please follow me. Because I don't purchase followers.
You know that paper.
But anyways, I just think this, listen, keep going and think about what's happening, right? Trump inherited a bull market.
You know that
ballistic podiatry. Trump has driven the economy in the ground. Trump is particularly robbing middle and lower classes, discriminating against brown and black people, disappearing brown people. And then this guy's yelling this.
But this is why, no questions asked, I'm voting Trump 2024. This man does not get the special treatment. He is not on the side of the universities. He is not on the side of the Bilderberger meetings. He is not on the side of the Clintons, the Obamas, the Rockefellers, the universities, the large corporations. This
Trump talks about the Gilded Age, which, clearly this man has no working knowledge of history. But the reason for Trump's belief in tariffs, which is a complete misfounded belief, is because of the Rockefellers. It's because of the robber barons, is what they were called. And the Rockefeller family was one of the head families of the robber barons. But I guess you would have to have the public, you would have to have a working knowledge of the past to understand how wrong you are about that. Trump's not on the side of corporations. I have video after video today about small people who have small businesses who have paid over $1 million in tariffs and are going out of business and are now suing Trump in a class action lawsuit. Is Trump doing anything to help small businesses? No. The only deregulation that's happening, the only exceptions that are happening are for corporations. Trump is absolutely forming an oligarchy. Imagine making this video and becoming famous off of it, and then it showing up and being this painfully wrong about every single word you were saying. And while yelling this, we're all being robbed by the same people, fool. If you scream louder, if you pretend you're on their team, doesn't make it true. I just want to be clear because this is a math thing. Even if you have $100 million, you are still closer to the middle class than you are to billionaires. Understand that. Even if you have 1 million, if you have 2 million, that is not compared to what we're talking about when we talk about excess wealth.
And is the guy who's fighting the machine. This guy is the rage against the machine. He is the one that is giving you the ability to say, F this, I will not stand for it anymore. I'm not going to let you raise my taxes and have you send them overseas. I'm not going to let you tell me what I should put in my body, what I have to put in my body just to
is raising everyone's taxes unless you make over 360,000. Oh my God. And I just found the best analysis of Trump's last tax plan and who benefited from it. unless you are in the 0.01%, I think you made $25,000. When I say that MAGA could not find their way out of a paper bag to save their lives, imagine being this sure and being this wrong. Complete ignorance. Not one thing he has said has been correct at all.
In the world that is supposed to be free. No way, no how. Y'all literally want to preserve democracy when the president you put in place is the least democratic president we've had at any time in our history.
Trump has violated the Constitution at every turn. Is impounding funds, is consolidating power of the executive branch. And he's saying that Joe Biden is the least democratic president. I will say he did use democratic as an adjective. So hey, 1 star for correctly using democratic versus Democrat when there was a noun. That's the nicest thing I can say. Every single other thing this man has said is either comes from complete ignorance or he's a liar, or it's a combination of both.
Y'all have lost me. Y'all have lost me. You have no ability to compromise. You have no ability to put your pride to the side and be like, ooh, we effed up. You have no ability to look around and realize, no, it's not okay that prices are up. It's not okay that more people are being helped overseas than right here domestically. It's not okay that we can't solve our SA trafficking, yet they can pinpoint every last dollar that you spend, even if it's cash. You aren't asking the right questions. And I'll be damned if I stand by and not say something about it. So any company that is paying me, that is working with me, that sees this video and is like, oh my gosh, John's office rocker, drop my ass. I don't care. I am tired. Americans have been corralled into working for companies that control their freedom of speech outside of work. I'm not working for you right now. I'm not making a video for your product right now. So honestly, you shouldn't really have a problem with what I say. But the stifling of speech from apparently the free speech side of the aisle, right? I can't tell you how many emails I got back in 2020 and 2021 that had BLM, LGBTQ activist or whatever. Yet if I put Trump 2020 in my bio, they'd drop me like that. So where is the free speech? Why can't I like what I like and you like what you like? I'm not going to get mad if someone I work with or some company I work with is pro Joe Biden. I don't care, man. You have the freedom to do and think whatever you want.
Yeah, a bunch of people in the comments earlier when I started playing this video were saying he bought his followers. I was just looking, if you don't know, like he has 1 million followers on TikTok. I used to work in digital advertising. I just went to his page and I was looking at his view counts. Yeah, it's highly probable. Yeah, no, the math doesn't math, the engagement and it used to be my job to be able to identify this type of stuff. So yeah, I actually think that's more accurate. This video I don't know if this was to get engagement, but yeah. Anyway, people were asking, because I know we've been talking about this for a while. This was a video that came out in August 2024. So this last August, this was his I've identified corruption and Trump is the only innocent person in the country. He's fighting for the truth. He's going to drain the swamp. Thank you, Wayne. Yeehaw. Thank you for the hat. I know I need to update a bunch of things. I'm going to do it now. But that's what he's saying. And now I want you to think about where we all are now. Trump is actively robbing us all, forming an oligarchy, supporting corporations, taking from the poor while we all watch, pathologically lying, denying and violating the Constitution at every turn. Very iffy on he seems to have possibly listened to that last Supreme Court ruling. I don't know if the one prior, the reason that the second Supreme Court ruling he had to listen to was because he was ignoring the first one and was about to ship more people without due process to Venezuela under the Alien Enemies Act. And that's why they had to act a second time. Saying that we can't get control of traffickers. I want to be very clear when I say this, because I've said this before, but I really want to say it. One of the funniest lines of logic that MAGA, whatever they tried, it's hysterical. MAGA, for your own sake, please do not pretend you care about women. It is hilarious. You do not care about women. It's just occasionally, like, my favorite was when they're like, oh, Kilmar Abrego Garcia's wife filed a civil protection order against him a few years ago. And they're like, oh, he hurts women. I thought that was what the one qualification to be in Trump's cabinet was. I thought you guys celebrated people who had been credibly accused of hurting women in some way or also helped to cover it up. I thought you guys loved when women were hurt. Are you guys kidding me? And let me help you with actual math, because this is a man, and MAGA, I don't feel embarrassed by him because actually, at least he's expressing himself quite eloquently. When the rest of you yell your feelings, it's even more embarrassing. So just to be clear, none of your feelings are based in fact. As a woman, because I want to say this, 1 in 3 of us have been essayed or raped. We are constantly in danger. I'm a runner. I run/walk a combination of 10 miles a day. And in the last year in Phoenix, I've been attempted mugging. They will have to unalive me. They will never get money from me unless I'm unalived. So, but twice. Right? In a year of running around Phoenix as a woman, 2 people have tried to mug me. I'm just really fast. It's the Division I athlete in me. But anyways, so I'm just saying this because I want to be clear about actual statistics and numbers. The safest I will ever be, because I don't feel safe amongst men in America. But if the safest I will be statistically is if I move to a neighborhood of undocumented immigrants. That's where I'm safest. I am less likely to be assaulted in a neighborhood of undocumented immigrants. I am less safe in a neighborhood of American citizen men. That's actual reality if you cared about our safety. And it seems like you were implying, I mean, I'm just going on your line of logic now, MAGA, which I'm on board with. If you're saying that if you've been accused of assaulting a woman, or if a woman has ever filed for a protection order against you in civil court, that you should be removed without due process to El Salvador, I think I speak for all women when I say we're all on board. Let's load you all up. Let's load you all up. Is that what we're doing? Without due process, no day in court, a woman credibly, or not even just accuses you of assault, and then we just load you up and we mail you out of the country without due process? I'm so on board with that. Never pretend you care about women, conservatives. And now I'm talking again about statistical analysis. It is conservatives who bring legislation that harm women. You know what that, and I hate saying her name, but I'm just going to say it because otherwise no one's going to know what I'm talking about. Senate Bill 5, the Lakewood-Riley Act. You know what that act actually did? Let's talk about how you all love women. If an undocumented woman is raped or assaulted and she scratches her attacker, she's deported. That's what you guys did in that act. All you had to do is clarify. You could have wrote a few sentences to clarify if in self-defense this isn't harming women, but you didn't. You've actually created a target on the backs of undocumented women, saying that if they call the police, and you can check in the news, this has already happened to several women who called the police. There was one working in a nursing home and she was assaulted, called the police, deported. You guys, please never pretend you care about women, because then I'm going to have to bring out the facts. Then I'm going to have to talk about legislation that has and impact studies, and who has brought legislation that has disproportionately harmed women. But here's the truth. It's not. I'm sorry. I could take issue with the Democrats all day. It's just not them. You do not care about women. Donald Trump does not care about women. He had his day in court. And let me help you with what? Because I know you guys don't understand and can't read. And your pocket constitution and states' rights, brother, that's only for 2A, right? Which was built on, your ability to pew slaves and drag them back to their owners. That's what 2A is. You guys just don't know anything about history because you can't read. But yeah, let me help you with what's going on. You guys, coverture law, everything that has harmed women over time, that has dragged women back, that has clawed back our rights, that makes us not people in the Constitution, that is conservatives. No one will ever mistake you for people that have cared about women. You are not people that care about women. And you laughably saying, hey, one time Kilmar Abrego Garcia's wife filed a civil protection order against her. Let me help you how that works then. Great. Then you still get a day in court. Now let me help you again, because here we go. You know who had a day in court and in civil court? Because now we're talking about civil protective orders. Who had a day in court and civil court? Oh, yes, Donald Trump. He had a day in court. What happened? A jury of his peers unanimously found him liable for S abuse. So if you are implying, because it seems like you guys are implying you care about women, then in your next breath, you need to renounce Trump and say that you will never support him again, or I wouldn't use that line of logic anymore. No one believes it. It's a joke. At every turn, the legislation that conservatives have voted for have made it impossible for women to get justice when they are insulted. That's why we have hundreds of thousands. Remember that Supreme Court justice that Elon Musk spent $20 million trying to install in Wisconsin? You know, one thing he's famous for is holding up hundreds of thousands of grape kits. That's your legacy when you vote conservative. Never pretend you care about women, because then we'll have to come with the numbers and the facts about how much conservatives care about women, which is not at all. It's embarrassing. I'm sorry. This video, when I saw it, it just drove me insane. Like, this is what we're supposed to be. It's laughable. You all, I mean that. Hilarious. Keep it up. You guys are hilarious. Oh, let me show you. Now that we're talking about due process, I do love because I could talk about facts. I could talk about statistical analysis. I could tell you guys things. I know you can't, because of the gender credibility gap, listen when women speak, even though if we added together all of your brains, mine is still bigger and better and firing on all cylinders. But I have someone who you can hear when he speaks talk about due process. I literally went looking for this. Someone told me it existed, and I was like, yep, I'm tired of trying to talk to MAGA about due process. Let me get someone that they can hear when he speaks. Don't worry, I found your mascot. Don't worry, Joe Rogan is here to explain to you that what Trump is doing is bad. A man is going to speak to you now, so you will be able to process the information.
About due process. No, fuck that. But here's the problem with fuck that. The problem with things that are going in a radical direction, and then there's an overcorrection. So the overcorrection is lack of due process. The overcorrection is like round them all up, ship them to jail. Like, that's like some things that you say when you're not thinking things through. Like, what do you do about all the criminals? Take them all, fucking send them to El Salvador.
Yeah.
What about due process? No, fuck that. But here's the problem with fuck that. What if you are an enemy of, let's not say any current president. Let's pretend we got a new president, totally new guy in 2028. And this is a common practice now of just rounding up gang members with no due process and shipping them to El Salvador. You're a gang member. No, I'm not. Prove it. What? I got to go to court. No,
Yeah.
No due process.
That's
Right?
dangerous, Joe.
That's dangerous. That's
man.
dangerous. That's dangerous. We got to be careful that we don't become monsters while we're fighting monsters. I think due process exists for a reason, and the reason is it is horrific for someone to be accused of something they didn't do, be imprisoned for crimes they didn't commit, and then live in a cell, live in a cage with a bunch of
People who did commit shit.
Here it is, Benjamin Franklin. It's better 100 guilty persons should escape.
Love watching like MAGA men find their way out of a paper bag. Watch how sincere they are too. It's like this just occurred to them. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, could something bad happen to all of us? It's adorable. It must be exhausting when their brains just start working all of a sudden.
Then one innocent person should suffer. That is wisdom.
Yeah.
That has survived hundreds should suffer. That is
sorry,
wisdom.
I'm going to rewind it because I think I
that
talked
has
over
survived.
that quote because it's a good quote. But listen, that's wisdom that survived 100 years. Like he discovered it, like the Holy Grail.
They didn't do in prison for crimes they didn't commit, and then live in a cell, live in a cage with a bunch of
people who did commit shit.
Here it is, Benjamin Franklin. It's better 100 guilty persons should escape than one innocent person should suffer. That is wisdom that has survived hundreds of years. It's incredibly accurate, and it is the foundation of freedom. Like, we have to make sure that these people are actually guilty, otherwise we become monsters. You can't, like, what is that when you fight monsters?
Someone tell Joe Rogan about how many people are falsely imprisoned and convicted on false charges, how inaccurate fingerprints are. If somebody hit Joe Rogan with reality, I don't know what would happen if he could survive it. Like,
just be careful that you don't become one. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very important. It's very important. You know, you can't do that. You know, it's one of those things where to support one side of this, you have to deny some like basic human values. Either way, like to support just rounding people up and just assuming they're all gang members. I'm not saying they're doing that, but this is the worst case scenario, right?
Yeah.
They get a bunch of people in a room, they rope them all in, and one guy's just someone's cousin picking someone up to give him a ride home. That's possible.
And now you're back on the one innocent person now you're right back.
And what if that dude is not doing anything wrong and he's got some stupid tattoos and they decide that this guy's a gang member, and now you're in a prison in El Salvador and you're not even from El Salvador. And now, you know, you were just a hairdresser or you were a tattoo artist,
family man.
You are.
Yeah.
You came over here and maybe you got a green card and maybe you don't. Maybe you were just given asylum, because a lot of people from Venezuela were given asylum in America.
Yeah.
And then you get shipped.
here's the crazy part, MAGA, by Donald Trump. Did you hear me? Because you guys can't read, so you would never learn it. You never will learn any facts. You also live in an information silo where this is the smartest man speaking, which is one of the thoughts I've ever had. Hey, let me help you. Donald Trump did a failed coup in Venezuela. That is why there was an influx of people coming to the southern border, because of the man. My favorite part of conservatives is create a problem. None of you can read, so no one can ever identify who created the problem. And then all of a sudden, the creators of the problem are like, I'm going to fix this problem that someone else created. No, it was you. Then, at the end of Trump's last administration, he gave all the Venezuelans temporary protected status. And then he revoked it when he came back in office. And you guys were like, yeah, taking back that TPS that Joe Biden gave everyone. No, it was Trump. Because he did a failed coup, cratered their economy. What's the number one driver of crime? Not brownness. It's not brownness. I know you said you were thinking it, MAGA. It's not brownness. I know that's shocking. It's poverty. When we turn off, when we devalue currency, when we cut off trade partnerships with third world countries, when we try to overthrow governments, it drives them into poverty, which then creates crime, power vacuums and crime. And then the good people flee north to the southern border. We, for years, and if the education system hadn't failed you all, you might know this. Everyone that crosses the land bridge from South and Central America to the U.S., they are victims of U.S. foreign policy. If we want people to stay in their countries, that's why you guys thought, like, oh, Kamala Harris was a immigration czar. No, her job was to discover the root causes of immigration in the Northern Triangle, which that could be your homework assignment. You could look up which countries that entails, but it has to do with Central America. And she did, and they came up with a solution, and we did reduce people coming here from those countries. But the point is, if you really want people to stay in their countries, people want to stay with their families. They don't want to leave everything they know. I disappeared into South America, and America is a beautiful place. Don't get me wrong. It's gorgeous. There's great parks and features here. South America is the most beautiful place I've ever seen in my life. If you've never had the pleasure, if you can ever see anything before you went alive, see South America. There's no reason. If they have a way to survive there, to create upward mobility and money and be educated and live, nobody wants to come here. If you've ever seen what South America looks like, why would you ever? Have I ever been to Ecuador? My apartment was in Ecuador above the clouds. Ecuador in Cuenca, which was it's a UNESCO heritage site. I lived in the Andes above the clouds. Well, that was my home base where I kept my stuff, but I wandered. Anyways, yeah. So, hold on, puzzle piece. You just can't hear it. It's that, if you don't know what that means, it's just a security. Oh, great. Now my mouse isn't working. I just have to prove I'm not a robot really quick. Okay, we're good. It seems a long time before the first puzzle. Oh, it's only been an hour and 30 minutes. I don't know why it feels like longer. But yeah, I mean, that's the point. And I'm saying this as my father is Black, he's indigenous, Mexican, he's from the Yaqui tribe. People don't want to leave where they're from. We have to create environments and trade partnerships and upward mobility so people can stay where their families are. No one wants to leave everything they've ever known and come here and be ridiculed and shat on. But we'll get to that because what they're doing for us. Also, MAGA, this is another thing. You guys can't do math. Undocumented immigrants are contributing to our economy, our retirements, right? They, in 2023, contributed $98 billion to our retirement through ITIN numbers. They're paying taxes, paying Social Security tax, Medicare tax. They will never get back. They just pay for free. They work and pay taxes for us so we could retire. And now you guys cheered when Trump used the IRS to start identifying where they are. You're cutting us off from billions of dollars that we are using to retire. You're biting off your nose to spite your face. Donald Trump told you brown people were up to something, and for some reason, you believed him. The saying, follow the money, is real. Forensic accounting is real. Brown people don't have your money. All they are doing is tirelessly working and actually helping us. And like I said, and this is more math, they're statistically less likely to be incarcerated than anyone in this country. Women, I'm saying many MAGA women listening, you're safer with them. Now, I'm not saying that no undocumented immigrants will ever commit a crime, right? Crime is like whack-a-mole. We don't know when it's going to happen. No one can reduce instances of crime to zero. I'm saying if you use mathematics and you're like, man, as a woman, I really don't want to be unalived or raped, then you're technically statistically safer among undocumented people than you are among random male Americans, which most women, even if you're MAGA, you probably already feel that deeply in your soul. But that does not mean, right? So understand, when you see on Fox News, when they march out some mother whose child was unalived by an undocumented immigrant, that is horrific, right? But is that indicative of a larger statistical story? No. It's also not true. Oh, I'm going to start blowing your mind. As we started shipping people to sorry, for a second, I forgot the name. Blue sanctuary cities. Trump's always like, Chicago is the worst place on earth. All this crime in New York. Hey, let me help you. When was crime statistically the highest recently in the US? During the pandemic. Why? Poverty. The number one driver of crime is poverty. People lost their jobs. They lost their access to capital, to the things they needed to survive. Crime went up. Trump used that to manipulate you and said, look at all this crime. People are carrying refrigerators out of Walmart on their backs. Right? And that was due to a once in a lifetime pandemic. Or if Trump doesn't address bird flu, and that's a whole other story, we might have a real problem soon if Trump continues denying science and scaring all the scientists into leaving this country. But that's what drove crime. The minute, and just so you know, another thing you were lied to, we recovered the best in the G7. That's the developed world, our partners, from the pandemic. Donald Trump inherited an economy that was the envy of the world. That's why the Economist, the cover, said, our economy is the envy of the world. Learned people who can do math, we all just thought that Trump was just going to take credit for Biden's recovery. Because you're right. When you felt pain and you said, God, I feel like I'm bankrupt, like my life sucks, like I don't have a good job, everything's awful, everything's expensive. That was all real, but that was not Joe Biden's fault, right? That was due to a pandemic. And then what Joe Biden did was get the smartest economists in the world in the right places and said, what do we need to do to recover? And yes, it was painful for us all, but it is still painful in other developed countries. In Australia, inflation is still soaring. Like Joe Biden did it better than anyone else. And you want to know something? And I showed this graph. Manufacturing jobs were spiking. Trump keeps saying that he brought manufacturing back with his first targeted tariffs. He didn't. We had a net loss in manufacturing jobs in Trump's first term. The only reason around election time they do targeted tariffs like around steel in Pennsylvania or automotive stuff in Michigan, it's for votes. Protectionism, that's targeted tariffs, yields votes. What Trump has done now with tariffs is worse than what drove us into the Great Depression. Understand that. We are in a dire situation. And I don't think, it's hard to say. We are already in a recession, right? It's not like one day the light just flips. It's like recession. It's a process that we're already in. And actually, as long as we are talking about that, let me show you, because I know it's hard when women start talking about numbers to believe them. So that's why I always like to have sources of men speaking, because I know it's easier for you to hear men when they speak about numbers. But here's one example. Let's just look. This is what's happening today. I am very intelligent. I understand the world economy. The markets are crashing.
A sea of red, as I've been saying all morning. The Dow now off 944 points. That's about 2.5%. That's about how much it lost last week, and today it's already doubled that amount. The S&P down 2.5%, and the Nasdaq down 2.8%. So in other words, it's a sell-off.
Is making sure while you cheer him on, you're not on Team Trump, unless you're a billionaire, and I don't know. In that case, more power to you. He is protecting you, right? And unless you make over $360,000 a year, you will not be getting a tax cut. You will pay more in taxes. You have to make $360,000 a year under the new tax plan to get even a small tax break. The real tax breaks go to corporations and the 0.1%. Let me show you more. I want to find this one other. I have a better video on the economy because I know it's hard to believe women when they speak about math. Keep tapping the screen.
And they've taken that hand and made it worse.
So what do you think it means for the economy now?
I think we're jumping into recession. You never just glide in. We're going into it right now. I think you'll see housing continue to slow down given the elevated interest rate outlook. So new home sales probably slow down. Investment spending is likely going to drop meaningfully. You're already seeing that across a range of surveys. And I think employment will be the next thing that moderates. Job finding rates have collapsed. Quits rates are collapsing. This is it's not a good situation. So I don't like playing this sort of ridiculous game about 50% chance over the next 12 months. We're in it. Mm-hmm. We're in it, and the only and they've taken that.
We're deep in it. Understand that. Don't listen. And Trump cannot do math. And you need to know that. You need to listen to people who can do math at this point. And by the way, I'm not saying go back to math school. AI can do statistical analysis for you. If you don't believe me, ask Grok, Elon Musk's AI. They can do statistical analysis. They can figure it out for you. Right? Since 1980, when you started hearing Reagan say, hey, if we just give billionaires and corporations tax cuts, it'll trickle down to the middle class. Nothing has trickled down. When Trump's, and I say it's the fourth time he manipulated the market since he was president, understand that all Trump has been doing is transferring wealth to the top of the economy. Unless you're a billionaire, unless you're the 0.1%, I'm not talking to you. On that day, when Trump said a couple of days before, said there's no negotiations, I'll never go back on my fake reciprocal tariffs. They weren't reciprocal tariffs. They were fake and made up. via fake. And I don't know if you know this, but I'm trying to think of I don't want to get the AI wrong that you can ask the question and came up with that. But there's a literal AI bot that if you ask the right question will develop Trump's fake reciprocal tariff theory. It's not based on anything he said it was. Then all of a sudden it was repealed. Guess what happened on that day? Today is Monday. So 2 weeks ago today was when Trump all of a sudden said it's a good time to buy DJT Trump. And I'm just talking about Trump media stock. Donald Trump made $415 million. If you saw, there's a video of Trump in the Oval Office with Charles Schwab. I'm not talking about people who work for the company Charles Schwab. I'm talking about the man, the Charles Schwab, laughing because he made $2 billion that one day. Another guy, I can't remember which hedge fund guy it was, but made 900 million, and they're all laughing together. While you know where that money comes from? These are transfers of wealth from the middle class to the billionaires. And when we have these transfers of wealth, you don't feel it immediately, but it's us losing power. Right? We're going back to feudalism when kings owned everything and we just worked on the land for scraps in hopes they would keep us alive. That is what is going on, a consolidation of power. You have to understand who is robbing you. It doesn't matter how many brown people with nothing flood into this country. They are not robbing you. They are not. The people at the top of the economy are robbing all of us together. Undocumented immigrants are doing jobs none of us would do anyways and helping us retire. That is the reality of the situation. And the question is, we have to wake up a critical mass of people to stop these people from robbing us. And I think, MAGA, we do agree on a couple of things, right? We all do. We need to get money out of politics. As long as it takes $2 billion minimum. I mean, that was before Space Karen came into the picture. I don't know. It used to cost $2 billion to elect a president. I don't even know how much it costs now, but thanks to Space Karen, it's much more. We cannot have the richest man in the world manipulating elections. Period. Do you guys remember when Space Karen said that the reason he needed access to everything in the U.S. government was because he was going to root out waste, fraud, and abuse? And MAGA, this is all true. And if you don't, you can go to anytime you want. You don't need me to go to doge.muskwatch.com. And you don't even have to go here, but I would suggest you can look up all sorts of reports that link back to primary sources that audit Elon Musk's accounting, if you will, the Doge wall of receipts. How much do you think Elon Musk has saved you? I have something to tell you, and you can just check my math and see if I'm a liar. The federal government is spending more than any other federal government has spent in history. We're not saving a dime. As a matter of fact, we are spending more now than any previous federal government in history. That's the reality. We're not saving a dime. And let's say that we were. Let's say we were going to save money. Now, all they're trying to do is offset the debt so that billionaires and corporations get tax cuts. Here, and I'll show you a graph of that actually, I have I want to show you, this is a good graph because it's actually the reality of and these tax cuts are deeper, just know that, than what Trump did with the TCJA. But I just want to show you how you didn't benefit from the first tax cuts. It felt like you did, right? You felt like, oh, Trump, we're all getting a tax cut and that's good. Let me help you with that. You can't say two things in one thing and then say another thing in the next breath. You can't say, what about the debt? To which I would encourage you to learn about modern monetary theory, right? The majority of the U.S. debt is parts of the federal government owing money to other parts. It's not what you think. So first you have to educate yourself on U.S. debt. But look at this. This is from Trump's first tax cuts that weren't as deep as they're about to be. So if you made Households with incomes in top 1% benefited most, shocker, from the 2017 Trump tax law, the TCJA. Look, if you were in the top 1%, that afforded you $61,090. That's if you make $837,000, almost $1 million or more a year. That's how much those tax cuts saved you. If you make $308,900 to $837,800, then you save $12,860. It felt like a lot. It feels like a lot more, right? If you make between $153K to $308K, you got $2,930. If you make 91,000 to 153, 1,680. The majority of us probably, at the time when this was relative, either make that or between 53,000 to 91,000, $910. Think about what you've been through for the 10 years of that tax plan. All for that. It felt like a lot more, right? It felt like something was happening. Lowest, if you make from 0 to 27K, $70. And the numbers are worse with the new tax plan. If you are under the impression that in any way Elon Musk is saving us money, using it to pay down the deficit, you know whose plan paid down the deficit? Joe Biden. You know whose budget didn't? Trump's first budget. This budget. We're going into debt. We're raising the debt ceiling by 5-something trillion so that rich people can rob us all. And again, so I'm on doge.muskwatch.com, and you can see this. First, Elon said he was going to save us $2 trillion. Then it was $1 trillion. Now it's $150 billion. But again, this is computer scientists auditing the wall of receipts, and an independent journalist who created this. I just want to give him credit. His name is Judd Legum. It's Legum. Again, if you ever want to check this out, anytime Elon Musk updates the wall of receipts, it's audited. Doge.muskwatch.com. Doge, the itemized cuts that include the contracts, the grants, and real estate that we're canceling by firing people. $61.5 billion. And that's just on what they're claiming. The verified canceled funding as of today, $12.6 billion. That won't save us anything. As a matter of fact, it's hurting us. Do you know why? How do you think we generate revenue as an economy? One of the biggest ways is what? Medical research. For every dollar our tax dollars invest in medical research, and I know when you hear people on Fox say, why are we spending $2 million to look into bat saliva? That sounds crazy, doesn't it? Did you know for every dollar we spend on medical research, we generate $2.56 back into the U.S. economy? It helps the economy expand. That's actually a return on investment. We should invest in more medical research. You know where the majority of that medical research happens? Universities, where Trump is. Do you know that the people that lead this medical research and the students that are capable of doing it are fleeing the country in droves? Our economy will contract because we're scaring away intellectuals. Our economy is built on immigration. If you don't know this, we're in gross population decline. And I mean gross population decline. The only way to continue having the number one gross domestic product in the world is through immigration. Getting the smartest people to come to the U.S. and do things like medical research. Has there been anything added to Muskwatch recently? Yeah, well, anytime, if you understand the wall of receipts, which that's what's being audited, it just depends on what's going on. Like the New York Times, there's many people auditing it, right? There's forensic accountants that are being paid by different publications to audit it. So as he gets exposed for different lies and stuff, things disappear, then reappear or change or whatever. But the things that's changed is it's gone down. The itemized cuts have gone down. Like I'm saying, whatever we thought, it's getting worse. Like the verified cancelable funding is now at $12.6 billion. It was higher than that. It's gone down because Elon Musk hasn't done anything. Do you know what he's done? Stolen a bunch of data. Do you know what else he did? he stopped a bunch of investigations against him. Let me help you, Maggie, because I know you don't know how the government works. If we really wanted to save money, the only people we wouldn't fire were the people that they fired first, the inspector generals. Those are the real auditors. Those are the real people that are capable of doing the real audits that could save our tax dollars money, that could stop the Pentagon from charging $75,000 for a soap dispenser. There is real waste, fraud, and abuse. It's just it's coming from the billionaires. It's coming from the corporations. They're not looking for it. I talked about this. We knew if we fired the whole federal workforce, that's nothing. It's nothing. These people aren't making any money. That's not going to save us from the deficit, from the debt. The real waste is in the military. And I'm not talking about veterans. I want to be very clear. We need to spend more money on veterans. We don't spend any money on veterans. Trump is taking more from veterans, money we don't have to take from them. And the only place we need to cut spending is in military contracts. That's where the waste is. It's in Pentagon contracts, the only place no one will look. But Elon Musk keeps assigning himself more. Look into Peter Thiel, the man who has funded and created J.D. Vance. That billionaire, another South African billionaire. America first, though, right? He just got Palantir, his terrifying company, just got a facial recognition contract to keep an eye on all of us. Look into that. The only place where the real waste, fraud, and abuse is, nobody will do anything about. If there's an amazing economist, his name is Jeffrey Sachs. Listen here. Listen to this.
If you take your credit card and you go shopping and you run up a large credit card debt, you're running a trade deficit with all those shops. Now, it would be pretty strange if you then blamed all the shop owners for having sold you all those things. You're ripping me off. You're ripping me off. You're ripping me off. I'm running a trade deficit. That is the level of understanding of the President of the United States. The trade deficit does not represent at all trade policies. It represents spending relative to production or earnings. We call that an identity. I teach it in the second day of my course in international monetary economics. Trump never made it to the second day.
Facts. Trump never, by all accounts, Trump was the worst student at Wharton while acting like he understands finance. You have to understand that in every business venture Trump ever had, the only person who leaves that business venture with anything is Donald Trump. Every contractor, every person that worked with him, everyone else loses. He considers winning him, grifting, taking. That's a win to him. You have to understand the reality of the situation we're in. Like, I want to show you. Think about what you just heard, and I can go into more about trade deficits because it's something I'm very passionate about. Again, you'll have to accept that women's brains are big. This is Trump yesterday. The businessmen who criticize tariffs are bad at business. Every economist in the world that understands how trade deficits work, other than you, are bad at economics and business. They don't understand or realize that I am the greatest friend that American capitalism ever had. Not to small businesses, not to the middle class, maybe to other billionaires, maybe to the oligarchy you're creating. But understand, MAGA, just because you voted for him, he's not protecting you. You're in the life raft with the rest of us, being stolen from. No matter how loud you yell for him, no matter how loud you swear that he's going to protect you, he's not protecting you. He has one goal: to consolidate wealth with other billionaires. You are not included in that. You are being robbed while you swear that he's the greatest person on earth. He's robbing you and small businesses. I want to show you this, and that reminds me of this very unfortunate. It's not funny. I should not. I'm not laughing. It's just, hey, bless these people's hearts. I don't know. Maybe that's a nicer bless their hearts. Can we all keep tapping the screen? And by the way, this is my Cash App and Venmo. If you like the work and research I do it all reliant on your tips and donations. Thank you guys so much. If you would like to support me, please do. Here, wait, sorry, I was muted the goals. Here we go. This is, if you guys know, I'm a native born Phoenician. I'm one of the few people that didn't come from like Chicago or New York to Arizona. I was born here. Listen to this Arizona farmer. And this is happening to farmers across the country. Good people from rural areas where Trump is depriving people of the funding, the federal funding they need. Hospitals are closing. It's going to get farther to drive for a hospital. Public schools are closing because you guys think school vouchers are good. Hey, in rural areas, there's no private schools. What are you going to do with a school? Oh, you have access to it. Nowhere to use it, though. Cool. Your public school is just being defunded. Awesome. Right? I mean, that's the reality of what's happening. Rural people are suffering first. This is an alfalfa farmer in Arizona.
About 200 bales right here.
In the Harquahala Valley.
Alfalfa has taken over the majority of our crops here for cattle feed, not only here locally, but in California and all over the world.
Alfalfa hay is big business, with Arizona farms exporting over $100 million of alfalfa overseas a year.
Like I said, normally this warehouse is completely full of hay.
Shannon Schultz is an alfalfa farmer and exporter. China made up about half of Arizona's exports. Now Schultz says Chinese farms are buying from other countries instead.
With the current tariffs in place, which is a total of about 66% of retaliatory tariffs by China to us, it puts our product out of the marketplace.
Still, Schultz says he supports the goals behind tariffs.
I do support President Trump.
But the clock is ticking.
It could break us. I mean, it could break a lot of farmers. We got to have some answers here fairly quickly.
And I don't want to hurt you guys because I know you think that. I know what you're thinking. I know you want to believe, why would someone just F me over? I'm telling you, when you hear the words short-term pain, long-term gain, there's no long-term gain for the middle class or for the lower class or for small businesses. There is zero. There are monopolies forming that are going to price you out of every single market. I mean, let me just help you. Let me just give you an example of that. If you're a farmer who believes, just suffer a little bit and Trump's for the greater good of people, do you know that JD Vance is a venture capitalist who comes from a South African billionaire, was created by a South African billionaire, and all of his election campaigns have been funded by Peter Thiel. He invests in a business called Acre Trader, which as these rural farmers, their small farms fail, JD Vance has a company snapping them up to consolidate the smaller farms into commercial ones. They are profiting off small businesses' failures. JD Vance directly. So is Donald Trump. I mean, you tell me, what is the long-term gain by your farm going out of business? What is the long-term gain? So if someone wants to explain to me what happens in the long term, what is it? You would have to explain it to me, but I can tell you no economist believes there's a long-term gain to what's happening. Economists describe what Trump is doing as idiocy, that an intoxicated nutbag is at the wheel. That's what intelligent people say. If you believe that there is some off on the distant horizon, there's going to be some payoff for you, there is not. And let me help you with trade deficits, because I think Jeffrey Sachs correctly told you how idiotic it is. Trade deficits are not a thing, right? Why did we offshore manufacturing from the United States? You have to understand the history and how globalism worked. You guys came into politics and you've heard globalism as this bad word, and you think it's Jewish rich people and Democrats who did that. No, that was you guys. That was conservatives and particularly corporations. Why did we offshore manufacturing? People decided that they wanted rights in the workplace, that they didn't want to lose fingers and feet. They didn't want to be injured in factories. They would like bathroom breaks. They didn't want to work in 125 degrees and 120% humidity. People started gathering together as unions and demanding labor rights. And guess what else? Living wages. And when that happened, when people in America started saying, wait a minute, I would like to be treated like a human being as a worker, then instead of corporations had a choice. They could have said, hey, we don't need to produce so much. Maybe it's going to be more expensive because we're going to have to take care of our workers and pay them a decent wage and give them health care. But we can do that, and we won't need that many things. But American manufacturing can live, even though it's going to be more expensive, and it will cut into our profit margins because that's the right thing to do. But that's not what happened, is it? Corporations said, we want the cheapest slave labor. If you don't understand how capitalism works, it functions. It is a bunch of very rich men saying, however cheap, I want the cheapest or the slaviest labor in the world. That's what globalism was. It was taking manufacturing from America because people were demanding rights and wages that companies didn't want to pay, and looking for third world countries or China who had no labor laws and saying, here, I can get people to work in sweltering conditions, 19 hours a day. When people try to jump out of the windows at the Apple factory and unalive themselves, there's nets to catch them. I'm not kidding. Look it up. Right? I mean, that's the reality. They moved manufacturing to third world countries where slave labor and horrible working conditions are still fine to maximize profits. That's what capitalism is. It's not about us and what's best for American people. That's what the federal government is supposed to be doing. Under Trump, that's not what's happening. But that's the government, right? That's the preamble to the Constitution. Provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare. The federal government is supposed to be looking out for us and keeping us alive. Corporations don't care if we unalive or not. They are delivering profits to the capitalists, to the donor class, to their shareholders. That's why we offshored manufacturing. Greed. And in doing so, we formed what we call trade triads, right? We started, if you don't know why they're called third world countries, I'll tell you. In World War II, there were the Axis, there were the Allies, and anyone who didn't take a side was basically punished, right? We referred to those people as the third world. We devalued their currency, and we saw them as opportunities to what? Steal the natural resources from out under their feet or exploit the indigenous populations for labor. So that's why in the third world, we take their minerals, their uranium, their gold, whatever we can get from the third world, we move it to where the manufacturing is, whether that's China or another third world country where there's nothing. And then what happens in America? Consumption. This is the marketplace in globalism. People bring it used to be very small, like, hey, I grew these apples, I'm going to bring them to the market to sell. We are the market. But in a trade war, that puts us at an extreme disadvantage. You have to understand what it would mean to bring back manufacturing. It would mean, what? We're all slave laborers again? They're never going to pay us a living wage. Remember what Remember what Trump ran on? No tax on tips. Did that ever happen? Of course not. No tax on Social Security. Did that ever happen? No. Do you know what has happened? Only things that will hurt Americans. A rule was supposed to go into place that would limit overdraft fees to $5. They did away with that. I mean, that's why they got rid of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, so American citizens can be exploited. If you believe that Trump and Elon Musk are looking out for you, then I'll say it again, you can't count and you can't read. There's no other option. They are not looking out for you as a worker in America. Period. They are not. That's the reality. Why is Trump increasing the H-1B visas? What are H-1B visas? I mean, there's all sorts, right? Like Trump uses them to bring like gardeners here, but H-1B visas are essentially, and I say this as somebody who worked in advertising in the tech industry, they're indentured servants. One of the most prized things are American engineers, but they're very fickle, right? They have their own projects they want to work on. They're very expensive. They move from company to company. That you can't tell them to do anything because their value is so high. That's why in the tech industry, we have something called 80-20 time. It's like the bribing of American engineers. We're like, hey, little guy, if you'll just sit at your computer and do something we ask you for a few hours, if you'll just, for 80% of the time, if you'll just please work on the projects we give you, then 20% of the time you can use all the resources we have and do whatever you want. That's how they bribe American engineers. But if you get engineers from India to come here, they are tied. They are indentured servants. They're tied to the company they work for. If you don't show up for work, it's not that you can stay in America. If you don't work 100 hours a week, you don't just get to stay here. You're deported. They control them. They own them. And also, MAGA, let me help you with this. If Trump cared about you, he would not dismantle the Department of Education. The majority of people that voted for Trump need the Department of Education. And I want to help you with what that does, because I know that Trump keeps telling you it has something to do with culture wars or about what's being taught in public schools. I also used to be a teacher before I worked in advertising. So let me disabuse you of that notion. The Department of Education, because the way public schools were funded, were built off what? Jim Crow laws. If you don't know what Jim Crow laws were, it was a way to keep brown, black, and poor people down.
That paper is more
right? It was to protect the wealth and keep it amongst the aristocracy in the South primarily. So public schools are funded off what? Property taxes. That's why in a rich neighborhood, public schools look like airports. You're like, is that an airport? Oh, that's a public school. That's the nicest looking public school I've ever seen in my life. And in poor neighborhoods, public schools don't look so good, do they? And what the Department of Education was created to do was it was the federal government's attempt at creating equity. Taking a very inequitable system, an unfair system, very clear, rich schools were overfunded, rich public schools in rich neighborhoods were overfunded, and public schools in poor neighborhoods were being starved and underfunded. And as a teacher, just so you understand how it works, we think of it as dollars per child, right? Like, you know, in poor neighborhoods, it's like maybe $6 per child versus, 60. It's a crazy differential. And the Department of Education was meant to make it more equitable. And Trump is taking away equity so that the poor stay poor, the rich stay rich. He doesn't want upward mobility, right? They are creating classism and a huge divide between the two. That's what it is. Don't let Trump tell you that they're trying to transition people in schools. The Department of Education doesn't have anything to do with that. It creates equity for the disabled, for the poor, for minorities. That's what it was about, is equity. Why would you destroy equity? And that's the beauty about MAGA voters. You need equity. You need upward mobility. You come from lower class rural neighborhoods primarily. And why would he destroy the stepping stones up for you? It's a very strange thing to do in an America First agenda. It's very strange. He's doing the opposite of what he said he would do. Yeah, thank you, Japs. And that's true. And if you don't know this, but I mean, I've said this so many times. Yeah, the federal government, the Department of Education, has zero to do with curriculum. If you ever have a problem of what is being taught in your local public school, surprise, doesn't have to do with the Department of Education. Curriculum standards are set by each state. So if you live in a red state and you're convinced they're teaching your kids something you don't like, doesn't have to do with the federal government. That's states' rights, brother. Take it up with them. The only thing the Department of Education was doing was providing your children with extra funding to make it more likely that they have similar, or at least, the bare minimum that they need to compete with richer areas. And I just want to show you some more things. When I say that this is a class divide, have you ever wondered why Trump's obsessed with Greenland? Have you ever wondered why Trump is always yelling about windmills? Rich people gave him money to be. That's why. The reason Trump's always yelling about windmills, also he had one big windmill dispute in Scotland. You could look up and read about that. Very mad at one giant windmill in Scotland. But outside of that, Trump has been bribed to deprive the wind energy industry in favor of oil and gas and have clean coal. What the F is that about? He's getting money from these industries. Let me show you. This is a very interesting article. If you ever want to know why Trump is talking about invading Greenland, he's been paid to. This is from The Independent. Tech moguls who invested in Greenland. Oh, tech billionaires like the ones that sat front row at his inauguration? Tech moguls who invested in Greenland mining also gave Trump campaign $243 million. Is that enough to make you interested in Greenland? $243 million to talk about taking it over? Same with the Panama Canal. He's trying to handle shipping. You know who has shipping interests through the Panama Canal? Corporations, huge corporations. Follow the money. And again, unfortunately, the money never leads to brown, undocumented immigrants. Those were just people helping you retire. The money always leads back to the same exact people who are stealing from all of us. It's the weirdest thing. I could show you video. Oh, yeah. I wanted to show you guys this because I was talking about this. So let me show you. Let's talk about the money. Oh, and thank you so much. Thank you, Bookish, for another giveaway sub. I feel like, or 3, or however many minutes. And Leanne, thank you for subscribing. I don't know if I missed any more people subscribing. Electric Girl sent a giveaway sub. Thank you so much. I know I've been talking about Electric Girl sent 3 more giveaway subs. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys so much. And then while I'm doing this, thank you for the $20, Michelle on Venmo. Hearts to you too. And Ave, thank you for the $10 on Cash App. You're amazing. I appreciate it. Again, all the research I do is based on your tips and donations. So any way you can support me is much appreciated. Sign Girl. Who got that subscription? It's not new. Bookish. Thank you again. If that's a new giveaway sub, saying thank you. So it's hard if you could see how TikTok Studio works. The software is hard to keep track. I want to show you this because this is, I used to think I was bad at math and economics, and then I met MAGA and I realized, oh my God, I'm an economics genius. All I did was take macro and microeconomics at university. But listen to this. This is, again, Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs, who again, if you remember when Kamala Harris, who, forget that she's a half black, half Indian woman, and understand that if you'd never seen her and didn't know her name and we were all just sitting here leafing through resumes together, Kamala Harris is pound for pound one of the top, let's say, 1% of people to ever run for president in this country. Overqualified. Everything she's ever said, it's eerie. Watch her debate with Trump. You tell me if every single word Kamala Harris ever said has now come true. You know what Goldman Sachs said? Trump never released a budget. You know who did? Kamala Harris. They said very clearly, if Trump makes good on this tariff stuff, we will go into a recession. Kamala Harris's budget is better for the United States economy and for middle-class America. Turns out they were right. Look at this. A jaw-dropping new analysis from Goldman Sachs, this is the gold standard of the financial world, reveals that Donald Trump's disastrous policies could cost the United States a staggering $90 billion. And guess what? Because we don't even talk about this. In lost tourism and export revenue. Tourism is one of America's biggest industries. Nobody wants to be here anymore because Donald Trump's a wacko. Tourism has been cratering as Trump shreds America's global reputation and his border agents continue to detain, terrorize, and deport innocent people. Reports of Europeans being improperly held for weeks. And it's not one or two people, it's hundreds and hundreds. We're detaining people who are trying to come to our country and spend money and fuel our economy. That's what we're doing. Last month, tourism plummeted 10%. Thank you so much. Keep tapping the screen. We should be at 350K. If we could all devote some time to aggressively tapping, let's get those magic fingers working. So again, last month, tourism plummeted 10% from the prior year, with a 14% dip from the United Kingdom. And you probably don't understand why that's significant, and people don't, I recently started looking at the numbers. I didn't realize how little Americans have ever left this country. The majority of Americans, and particularly conservatives, have never left America, but like maybe Mexico, like 1 or 2 times. So you guys don't understand. You have to get travel visas to enter America. Now, most places, well, prior to Trump, it's changing fast now, but like we can just book a ticket to another country, and our passports used to be better than any other passport in the world. Not saying people liked us, but because of the power of the US dollar and the power of the American military, we could just book a ticket. We didn't have to apply for a travel visa. We didn't have to fill anything out and just kind of show up on the plane and maybe fill out like a customs form on the plane before we got to customs. Right? I mean, our passports were the gold standard, even though it's not good to tell anyone you're from America when you're traveling. That's just some advice. Say you're Canadian. Everyone loves a Canadian. But now tourism has been cratering as Trump shreds America's global reputation. Oh, wait, I said that. Sorry. Oh, yeah. I forgot my line of logic. What I was explaining was why it's so significant that tourism would drop from the UK. One of the easiest places to come to America from is a UK passport. Like, because our standards of living are similar, because they're kind of like our angry step parent that created us. We let people visit and tourism enter from the UK pretty easily. And it dropped 10%, with a 14% dip from the United Kingdom, 27% from Ireland. It's also pretty easy to come from Ireland. 28% from Germany, another country we easily led into the United States, and 34% from Denmark. Now, why would it be 34% from Denmark? Do you understand what Denmark owns? Greenland. They don't like us anymore. So again, Canadian flight reservations for the summer season have dropped by 70%. That's the largest chunk of our tourism was people coming from Canada. They're part of the snowbirds. I'm in Arizona. If you don't understand the chunk of revenue that is generated by the United States from people from Canada, they're like geese migrating south when it's cold. They're not coming anymore. We're cratering our own economy because of this immigration policy and this trade policy, directly impacting American businesses and vendors that rely on tourism. Some hotels are reporting an overall 25% drop in bookings from Europeans. In addition to fears about traveling, and this is from, again, Goldman Sachs. I mean, they are predicting a very large recession. In addition to fears about traveling to the increasingly authoritarian United States, many foreigners are choosing to boycott and spend their money elsewhere. Trump's tariffs and hateful rhetoric have destroyed our national image. That's a fact. According to Goldman Sachs, some $20 billion in retail spending, $20 billion in retail spending, this is just the beginning too, from international visitors could evaporate into thin air. Coupled with the tariffs and the skyrocketing cost of goods, this all amounts to mass economic suffering for American people and small businesses. In the worst case scenario, Goldman Sachs estimates a massive 0.3% hit to the gross domestic product, roughly $90 billion. Trump's so-called golden age is turning out to be a new dark age. Isolationism isn't as great as you thought when you start understanding the full breadth of the U.S. economy and what fuels it. Look at this. Foreign tourism has been a tailwind for the U.S. in recent years, as the cessation of pandemic-era restrictions sparked a resurgence of international travel. This is scary to look at. We are going... Oh, and I couldn't find this. I was talking about this on Faxes Live, and I was searching for the article and couldn't find it. This is terrifying. This is some Mr. Global stuff. Goldman Sachs expects oil prices to decline through the end of this year. The bank expects Brent and WTI oil prices to edge down, averaging $63 and $59 a barrel. Now, MAGA, if you don't understand what I'm saying and how horrific it is, what Biden was doing when you guys were all complaining about gas prices was we were clawing back market share in oil and gas from Saudi Arabia. That's what we were doing. Because you know why? You have to understand the value. We are the gold standard of currency. So to tap oil wells in the United States, to drill, baby, drill, it costs more than other places. So we have to keep the price per barrel of oil comfortably above 65. I mean, it'd be nice if it was at 75, right? When it falls below 60, this is the prospectus. It's going to average $63 and $59 a barrel, depending on which index you look at, respectively, for the remainder of 2025. Now, listen, that's just through the end of this year. 2026, 58 and 55. I want to be very clear. Donald Trump, remember how he told you, drill, baby, drill? Under $60 a barrel, American oil goes out of business. It's bankruptcy. They cap wells. They cannot tap them. That's why when Donald Trump started telling Saudi Arabia to release their oil reserves, what you have to understand is he was driving U.S. oil out of business. If OPEC floods the market with their reserve barrels of oil, drives the price per barrel down, we bankrupt U.S. oil. Why would we do that? What Biden was doing was staying in what they call the sweet spot. He was keeping the price per barrel stable, showing U.S. gas and oil, hey, I'm a sane person. Because let me help you with smaller oil companies, thanks to Mr. Global, because I am very intelligent, but he has helped me learn a lot about the U.S. oil market. These are medium-sized companies. I'm not talking about ExxonMobil who can weather a storm, right? I'm not talking about British Petroleum. I'm talking about medium and small U.S. oil companies who are tapping these wells. They have to take every asset they have and bet it to tap a new well. And what Biden showed them is, hey, I'm stable. I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. I'm going to keep the price per barrel in a place where you know that you can make the profit margins. So when you tap a new well, you will not go out. You will not go bankrupt. What is Trump doing? Up, down, insane. Now, just straight down. Would you bet every asset you have? Would you risk it all with a bank to get the capital to tap a new well when a wacko is in charge and changes policy every day? Is that a safe bet? Trump is driving U.S. oil out of business. Nobody can bet on Donald Trump. Nobody at all. And this is a great article to read about. I think I took a screenshot. Read this. Goldman Sachs expects, this is a Reuters article, so it's free. Goldman Sachs expects oil prices to decline through 2026. Trump's insanity with tariffs and these trade wars, he is driving U.S. oil out of business. Any market share they clawed back from the Saudis, gone. And I could not find this article because I was going to say this on Faxes Live, but read this. This is the perspective. There will be no drill, baby, drill in the U.S. because that's what you have to understand. You incorrectly equate cheap gas. And again, I'm just going to credit Mr. Global because he's the one that showed me how to find this information and taught it to me in the first place. Otherwise, I wouldn't know how to find this information. But the last time and now I'm talking about national averages. I'm not talking to you, Billy Bob, in the backwoods of Arkansas and what you might have paid for gas 5 years ago. Okay. When the national average of gas prices was under $2, was under $1.98, which Trump is in real time claiming that's the national average of gas prices. It's not. But guess how much it was per barrel? $16. I'm just trying to give you an idea of how we're never going back. Trump is just lying about gas prices. Also, because of the octane blends needed in hotter weather, like gas prices are not getting cheaper. Just due to climate, just due to we're moving into the summer. But just understand, Trump is not drill baby drilling. He's bankrupting U.S. oil. He's making sure they have no future and they can't trust him. Because what they need is steady. They need a sane person to hold the economy steady so they can risk everything to tap a new well. You can't do that under Donald Trump. He's encouraging the Saudis to flood the market with their product, which will bankrupt them. So just understand, things are not looking good in gas and oil. And for some reason, Trump continues to lie to you guys. Also, this might come as a shock. Egg prices have not gone down. I mean, I assume you guys know that, but just in case for any reason you don't know, people have been dyeing potatoes for Easter. We are at the dyeing of potatoes while Trump is continuing to, for some reason, the egg prices are going down. Also, we should be very concerned. Trump is a science denier. Bird flu, it has jumped to like 6 different species of animals, and we should be very concerned about it. But I mean, Trump has been, I was listening to a virologist speak from Canada. It's not great.
Back during the campaign, Trump claimed that he was going to cut $2 trillion from our annual budget. And by the way, our annual budget is $7 trillion. So he would have been talking obviously about a massive, massive cut. They quickly realized that was not successful. In January, they said we'll cut $1 trillion out of the budget. And by the way, the government's fiscal year is now more than half over anyway. But then on April 10th, they lowered it to $150 billion. So $2 trillion, $1 trillion, $150. But even the $150 billion, the New York Times did a very thorough investigation of this. 92 billion of it is unspecified. Nobody knows where that's coming from. Of the other 63 billion, there were all kinds of mistakes, including, for example, a contract for 1.9 billion they claim credit for actually canceled during the Biden administration. So for all the commotion, all the layoffs, all the unhappy people, back during the...
Are you getting it? Is it clicking now? You're being lied to. Trump is only spending money and consolidating wealth with his billionaire friends. He's lying. He's not, there's no waste, fraud, and abuse he's saving you from. You're being lied to. It's not real. It's very sad that I have to keep telling the same data story, but let's just keep going. And let me just listen. And this is another example. Let's talk about the cuts he is making. I don't know if, and I know you guys don't read, so you haven't looked at Trump's budget, what he's calling the big, beautiful bill that's going to bankrupt our country. There are studies showing that if children do not go to some form of preschool, how far behind they will be in their academic learning as compared to children that do. The way, like I said, the Department of Education supplemented things like that with programs like Head Start. Trump's big, beautiful bill has a complete elimination of Head Start money. I can't express to you, and I encourage you, if you don't believe what I'm saying as a former teacher, to look into studies. There are studies on this about what happens to children who don't have access to some sort of pre-kindergarten learning, and how their upward mobility and lifetime earnings are limited as a result of that. The most valuable thing we ever did in this country was use Head Start to give children access to pre-K learning. It is vital for children's early childhood development. And I just want to show you what Trump's new budget and big, beautiful bill is going to do.
Of stuff that the Trump administration is doing that would be a stop the presses moment in any other administration. It's just that he's doing so many of these things at once that they can get lost in the sauce, right? I mean, Trump just this week has revealed a budget plan that will entirely eliminate the Head Start program everywhere in the country. This would have been a month's worth of headlines in any other administration. I mean, Head Start is preschool, and Trump is going to cut it to zero. Nearly 50% of all Head Start funding in the whole country goes to rural areas in which there often is no other childcare option available for young parents. Head Start is it, and Trump is zeroing out Head Start. Zero. He's eliminating it. This week, Trump has yanked all AmeriCorps volunteers off their projects all across the country. AmeriCorps is like the Peace Corps, but of stuff that the Trump administration.
I would advise, if you are in a red state, you need to call your Congress people. You need to put pressure on them to fund Head Start. This is no child, right? As a teacher, like people always say, like, oh, I hate MAGA, whatever. As a teacher, children are our future. I don't care what their parents' political beliefs is. Every child should have access to the best education possible and to the things that are going to give them the tools to succeed in life, to have the best chance possible. And if we deprive children, particularly, again, this is rural areas, red states, depressed areas, depressed economies, children need Head Start. So if you care about, I don't care if you're MAGA or not, you need to put pressure on Congress people to fund Head Start. This will cripple the future of our children. Let me give you an example. Did the pandemic hurt children's reading and math levels? Sure. Yeah, when you go from in-school learning to remote learning, it did damage our children. But unfortunately, we didn't create the pandemic, right? This is 100% avoidable. Why would we cripple our children? Why? So that rich people can get richer and have a tax cut? I don't care what any parent's political beliefs are. Every education that will set them up for life to succeed. Every child. This is such a minuscule amount of money to give every child in America upward mobility. Call your Congress people, and I'm not saying just the one in your district. Call every person in your state. Call every senator and demand that Head Start be funded. Just because we're all in this ridiculous situation doesn't mean any of our children. I don't care if your parents voted for Trump or voted for whoever. I do not care. Every child needs access to pre-K education. That is upward mobility. That is the future. It is so, 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 so important. And not to just I could harp on the economy forever and tell you how, let me do this really quick. Melissa, thank you so much for the $5. I wish the entire country would actually listen to you, but I'm just a woman with a tiny brain, Melissa. Like, listen to learn, kind of listen. Exactly. Listen for comprehension. I know. I wish I could force the entire world to sit crisscross applesauce and listen. Thank you, Brian, for the $40. That is so amazing and so helpful. I have some software I need to pay for. I really appreciate it. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I always talk about this guy that I love his videos on TikTok. Again, I've talked about him many times. His name's Oh That's Rich, which I'll show you really quick before I play this video because I thought he always makes good videos. This is not one of his, I like him because he analyzes data and uses it. But look, you can see it's O with 2 H's because if I need to show you again after, I will, but I'm just showing now because every time I play one of his videos, people are like, who's that? It's 2 H's. Yeah, he's great. A lot of people, I'm not trying to be like, no one knows who this person is. A lot of people on TikTok know. But if you've never had the pleasure, this is a great creator to follow. He takes data and analyzes it and says like very logical things. But this is kind of outside that. I love this. I just thought when I saw this video, I was like, oh, this is so apropos for the situation we find ourselves in. I started out the show talking about narcissistic abuse and how this is one of my favorite creators on this app. His name, oh my gosh, I think he goes by Smoking and Thinking now. Hawk is really close to him. He's very smart. Also, like me, raised by a malignant narcissist. And he, I think he was the first person I saw say this. Nationalism is the narcissism of many, right? And this video it's very apropos with that.
In my 40 or so years of following the leaking bag of garbage that is the Republican Party, I have witnessed some truly disgusting embarrassments. And yet a new development in Trump's battle with Harvard has it in the top 5. It's not just that Trump bought an Ivy League degree, and it's not that he somehow found and hired all of the other incompetent people who bought their Ivy League degrees. It's not their ironic hatred of higher education, despite the fact that universities are one of our top exports, bringing in billions of dollars every year to the United States while also developing new technology and curing diseases. It's not even that these morons sent a letter to Harvard demanding they dismantle their brilliant frameworks for eliminating bias in their recruiting, hiring, and admission processes to ensure they attract the best faculty and students in the world. It's not even that Trump tried to suspend $2 billion in federal spending that would go to research that would benefit all Americans, all because he hates brown people, although that one's pretty bad. Worst part was not even that Trump just admitted that that letter of demands to Harvard was sent by mistake. It's not that after that letter was sent by mistake and Harvard responded with a middle finger, the Trump administration was too embarrassed to admit they made a mistake, and so they doubled down and escalated the fight instead, threatening to suspend Harvard's tax-exempt status, weaponizing the IRS against arguably the most important university in the country, rather than simply admitting wrongdoing. No, the worst part is this. After this entire embarrassment unfolded, they blamed Harvard for not knowing it was a mistake. The Trump administration said, and I quote, "It was malpractice on the side of Harvard's lawyers not to pick up the phone and talk to the lawyers they had been speaking with for weeks. Instead, Harvard went on a victimhood campaign." Imagine just for a moment how comfortable you would have to be in your incompetence to be able to make a mistake that harms someone else, and your first reaction is not to apologize and own the mistake, but instead to blame the victim for not knowing that your malice was actually just incompetence. And imagine thinking, as a person wallowing in that chronic state of incompetent malfunction, that you deserve to keep your job.
And I want to say that because I want to talk a little bit more about this, because I want to be clear. I've done a lot of research on this, and I want to explain what happened, because it's not necessarily like just because Trump after the fact is like, oh, that was a mistake, why didn't they know? I don't think the evidence necessarily leads to that conclusion. I think that Trump keeps overplaying his hand. And when it doesn't work, then he backtracks and is like, how did you not know that I was kidding, or that was a mistake? This was a letter sent. It had 3 different departments letterhead. Thank you for extending your subscription, Lena. Appreciate it. It had 3 different departments letterheads, 3 different names. It was a very detailed letter with a very detailed, insane list of demands. And I just want to say, the people that said it was a mistake, that's not Trump and his cronies. I want to explain how this all happened. So Harvard, Trump has all these universities under attack. Columbia immediately folded like a lawn chair, but they've all still remained in negotiations. Like these schools' legal teams, Harvard's legal team has been negotiating with 3 different heads, or let me say general counsel, which is the head of legal for different federal departments, 3 different departments. By those lawyers, lawyers who are sane and beholden to the ethics of the bar and don't often communicate with Trump. They were in negotiations with Harvard, thought they were in control of those negotiations, and felt like they were making headway and they were coming to some sort of pretty good agreement or whatever. Outside of that, right? Someone, probably Trump, with Trump's approval, a wacko. Maybe Trump needed a distraction from him tanking the economy or some other absolute crisis that he was in. They fired off that letter on Friday night. Right? This is another thing when Fax and I were talking this morning about taking out the trash under the cover of darkness. This is the same thing Hitler did in the 1930s. Wait till Friday Night Light when everyone thinks the nightmare has ended for a couple of days and do a bunch of really messed up things. When Trump annexed all of that land and created a military installation as an end run around the Posse Comitatus Act 1 week ago from last Friday, and still I mentioned it, people are like, what? Yeah, happened in the cover of darkness on a Friday night. Thank you for the hat. That Supreme Court ruling that John Roberts doesn't want to embarrass Trump, 1 a.m. last Friday night. This is another thing that happened on Friday night. And now they're like, oh, it was a mistake. No, I doubt that. It just didn't go Trump's way, right? What happened when that letter went out? Those lawyers who are sane and thought they were in negotiation with Harvard, they were like, oh, I didn't approve this. This wasn't me.
computers.
But Trump did what? Doubled down, froze $2 billion in funding, threatened their tax exempt status, which I can tell you is an absolute crime and in violation of the Constitution. So Trump and his weirdo buddies, they seem to know exactly what was going on. The people who are saying, I don't know, I didn't know, and I didn't approve this, those were the general counsel of 3 federal government departments. Like, who probably didn't, because they're sane people beholden to the ethics of the bar. Trump does not operate that way, right? But this got real ugly, right? And Harvard took a huge stand. And now the result of that are other universities. You know, I don't know how much everyone reads. I read 5 books a week and many thousands of articles. Columbia is now saying they regret ever agreeing to anything and might go back on it. Like places like, I can't remember how many schools are in the Big 12. Is it the Big 12 now or whatever since the college football stuff? This has nothing to do with sports. This has to do with them all banding together now and agreeing an attack on one of us is an attack on all of us, right? Harvard has now mobilized higher institutions to fight against Donald Trump. And so all of a sudden then it's like, oh, this was a April Fools. Why didn't you guys know we were kidding? Yeah. But let me just say, let's say that letter was fired off. That basically, if you read it, said that Trump is now the dean of every school in the country and will tell them what to teach, tell them who to admit, tell them who they can hire, and jail whoever he wants to on that campus whenever he wants to. What if they had just said, we agree? Do you think it would have been a mistake then? Trump just continues to overplay his hand, and then he's like, someone else fix this. And then the general counsel that were actually in negotiation with Harvard was like, actually, I didn't approve any of that. None of that had to do with us sane people over here, which I don't believe is untrue. But I also don't believe that letter was a mistake. Oh, thank you so much. Hold on. I've got to figure out. Is that Reggie? Thanks, Jess, for subscribing. Reggie. Why can't I do this? Every time I try to look, how many sent 5 giveaway subs. Thank you so much. Look, we're almost at 500. This is like Christmas. Thank you so much, Reggie, for the giveaway subs. Reggie, especially if you got a giveaway sub in the chat. Again, if you already have a sub, you can just buy like 5 subscriptions for a month and they can be either randomly assigned to people or you can assign them to people. Someone explained. I thought it was random, but then someone said, no, you can do either. So, and that star, I just learned. I'm just saying, I'm not an expert. I'm just saying things people recently, Joanna told me like a month ago. That yellow star at the bottom left corner, that's how you subscribe. I didn't know that until recently when Joanna had to explain that to me. So Joanna for being the best bot and teaching me things. We made it to 300K. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to update the tap goal right now, and then we're going to move on to some more amazing. Then we're going to continue. Oh my gosh, what is happening? So much yellow. This is like the subbiest subwave of all time. Things like this don't happen to me. I should have known. There he is again. Okay. Joby, usually it is Joby. Joby Wan, the nicest person and the best supporter ever, just bought 10 giveaway subs. Always Joby. Thank you so much. That's amazing. Thank you. And thank Joby Wan. I like to call him Joby Wan Kenobi. It's JOBY.ONE. Why was that so hard? Sometimes it's like when you hear something and then spelling it is just 2 completely different things. I have so many. I want to show you guys some clips from the scary egg. I told you Trump was like with kids at like an egg hunt while like screaming at the camera and like alternating with Pete Hegseth saying very weird, disturbing things. It's like a slow motion. Yeah, the reality show today. Normally, I would say I think for MAGA, Trump's reality show is this has to be the weirdest reality show episode of all time. What Trump is producing today, I think. And now I remember. We have to start with something else because now I'm like looking it up. Now that I have become obsessed with Lysandra, Let's start with Lysandra's. If you don't know, Lysandra Vasquez is a woman. You should definitely look her up on TikTok. It's the woman that continues to parody Caroline Leavitt and her part in Trump's ridiculous reality show. Do you see the peep cross? This has to be the greatest. The crosses keep getting bigger and more ridiculous. She glued together peeps. Poor Caroline. And I think I'm not saying this. I'll show you guys because I have the clips of Caroline this morning. I feel like she's, I don't know, trying to look better or something. I feel like this is really affecting her. But the peep cross, it might be my favorite one now of all time.
President Trump would like me to welcome you to today's Easter press briefing, and we are keeping it just that brief. Just to remind you of the reason for the season, Easter is about celebrating a hero who was betrayed, persecuted, and then rose again. Does that remind you of anyone, Caitlin? Or do you not have a religion? It's President Donald J. Trump, who rose from the ashes and became the president that we needed. Again, the person that's going to lead us into the golden age of America. And we're proud, and you should be grateful that you are witnessing this time in human history and that you're a part of the new golden age of America. Sure.
Does the president have any thoughts on the protests that happened yesterday?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for asking the Washington Post. Yes, the liberals are apparently rebranding walking by calling it protesting. What? Do you not have enough things to do? You don't have a hobby anymore? What happened to you guys doing like disc golf or something like that? I don't know what liberals do besides color their hair and own coffee shops. But no, they were out there commemorating the shot heard around the world, which is rich for people who want to get rid of the Second Amendment. And also, in the same breath, they're out there fighting for a man they know nothing about, who is a violent, hardened gang member, Albrego Bad Bunny. Do you know what Albrego Benito said when he got arrested? He said, "Titi me pregunto." Do you know what that means in Spanish? That means my aunt asked me to traffic. Sure.
Does the White House feel differently about the Pope since he dissed JD?
No, absolutely. No, we're not going to be talking about the Pope. I will not get ahead of the Vice President. He was snubbed by the Pope. It was extremely disrespectful. Frankly, it was.
And this was before the Pope was no longer with us. And it's true. If you didn't know, the Pope basically was like not having a great time with JD Vance, and now the Pope's no longer with us. So don't have a conversation with Couch Boy, because who knows what could happen.
Insulting that we got passed off to the assistant to the Pope, which is essentially the Dwight Schrute. When we asked to talk to Michael Scott, we need to talk to Michael Scott. And I will not get ahead of the Vice President, but thank you for asking. Caitlin, no.
I don't know why she's screaming Caitlin. It's because Caitlin Collins, who works for CNN, is in the press corps, and she always asks, she's like one of the only people that's like, hey, why do you keep like lying about this? Or maybe we should do this. And like Trump is always yelling at Caitlin to shut up. Caroline is always, Caroline's just doing an impression of Trump. So that's why Caitlin Collins is one of the only people, it's always women, who have the guts to actually ask real questions. And that's why. Here, and if you can't find her, you can't see it. Sorry, this happens sometimes with TikTok videos where you can't see the handle. It's Lysandra the Comedy. Lysandra the Comedy. But yeah, if you just search her name, you can find it too. That's how I found it. I didn't know her real handle, but it's Lysandra v Comedy.
Peter, go.
Is the president going to follow the Supreme Court orders?
Okay, no, Peter, you're talking about the Supreme coup, not the Supreme Court. These people are against the American government, and they're trying to take us down from the inside. It is absolutely horrific. It's kind of like when Joe Biden was trying to take us from the inside by allowing all of those hardened gang members into the United States. Do you know that Joe Biden is actually part of the Illuminati with Barack Hussein Obama, Beyonce, Jay-Z, and Tayo Cruz? You might not know this, but Tayo Cruz, who wrote the song Dynamite, is actually a war criminal too. You know that? He wrote the song that says, I throw my hands up in the air sometimes, saying, Ayo, gotta let go. And that releases a megahertz that hypnotizes. It hypnotizes the people at the border, and they think that they're celebrating and living their life while they're letting people across the border, over and back, trafficking people. Anyway, happy Easter, everyone, and I hope that we don't have to declassify anything else like B613.
Oh my God. I love these. I could watch these videos all day. And let me just show you another. I posted this on my TikTok yesterday. I know I used to be a full-time content creator, but I got away from it. Remember on Friday how Trump was doing the whole, I found these knuckle tattoos on Kilmar Barrigo Garcia. I thought this was great. You guys solved the case. We found another one. Load him up, disappear him to El Salvador. I caught one. Yep. Unfortunately, it is, in fact, the Secretary of Defense, but I caught another one. It's very obvious. Don't ask me how these tattoos equate to MS-13. That's less important, but we did catch another one. Let's just disappear him in the dead of night. I think we'll all be better off if he doesn't have due process. It's fine. That's how it works. Ew, and Pete, put on a shirt. Let's not. This is gross. Anyways, let me go to the Easter. I want to show you real Carolyn. You tell me if she looks a little bit different. I feel like she's trying to look better almost. I don't know. You tell me if you think she's trying to work on her appearance as a result of being mocked endlessly. And I'm not going to ever, I have the pic somewhere before. I'm not going to get into it. I'm not going to attack anyone's appearance, but there is pictures running around of Carolyn before she started getting injectables in her face. This is why I hesitate to ever get Botox. It's so scary if you see what she used to. And by the way, she's 27. She doesn't need to look like this. Just saying. But today, I feel like she's is she doing full glam? This is okay. So this is her before. This is her on Fox in the morning. What? That's not.
They should know the truth about this man. He is an illegal alien, a foreign terrorist, and a criminal MS-13 gang member who violated our country's laws by coming here in the first place. And shame on Senator Chris Van Hollen and the entire Democrat Party, who wasted Easter Sunday going on every television show in the country to advocate for the return of an illegal criminal gang member. They should know.
It me or she did full glam, huh? She had men have no idea what we're talking about. That's a 4-hour makeup artist situation, full glam. That's for the Real Housewives type situation. It's kind of scary. What is happening with her? She changes. She looks like a completely different
Senator
person.
Kennedy did come out and say, yeah, this guy looks like a really bad guy, but the administration made a mistake sending him to
her. You know how Lysandra's, the woman that parodies her, is always look at her mouth right at the beginning of this.
Senator Kennedy did come out and say, yeah, this guy looks like a really bad guy, but the administration made a mistake sending him to El Salvador. Do you feel that way?
We did not make a mistake. We have always maintained that this was an individual who needed to be deported from our country. The president swore to the American public he was going to deport illegal criminals, and especially those who have been involved in violent gangs like MS-13 that have terrorized American communities. And so to the Democrat Party, who thinks that they are going to bring this foreign terrorist back to the United States of America to live a peaceful and happy life, that is never going to happen.
Is she hard of hearing? Is that what's going on? Why is she always screaming? And also, not one word of what she said is correct. I just want to be clear again of what's going on. Again, Kilmar Abrego Garcia is in the United States legally. That's not to say he will stay here forever. Nobody is fighting for his right to remain in the United States forever. He was in the United States with a withholding of removal, right? That legally, and the only place he could never be taken back to was El Salvador. It's not that he couldn't be deported. There was one country on earth he could never be taken to, and that was the one place that the Trump administration sent him. And I just want to be clear, because they fired the first lawyer who admitted in federal court that this was just a mistake, and they act like that's the only person. 4 different people from the Trump administration have said, including the Solicitor General, John Sawyer, have admitted that it was an error under which he was removed. A 9-0 ruling from the Supreme Court said that they needed to facilitate his return. And then at 1 a.m., on well, technically Saturday at 1 a.m., the Supreme Court stopped them from sending more planes full of people without due process to El Salvador. Everything this woman is saying is a lie. And it's I don't know, such a weird hill to die on for her. I don't know why she's so intent on doing this, but it's kind of scary. Oh, and Aaron Reichle-Melnick, the immigration... well, that's not my fault. Blame TikTok Studio for closing my presentation. Sorry, I'm casting from my iPad. Let me just pull it open again. But again, that clip I just played of her just making up a series of pathological lies for Donald Trump. Aaron Reichle-Melnick, okay, I was like, what? There, it's working again. Responded, and I love her. It's shocking that the administration's new position on Mr. Abrego Garcia's wrongful deportation is that there was no mistake. Despite saying at every stage of court proceedings, it was a mistake. Here are all the receipts, all from filings the DOJ submitted in court up to the Supreme Court. Notice how there's 4? You know how I know that? Because I've read all the court filings at every stage of court. And up until the Supreme Court, you know who argues in front of the Supreme Court? Not some random DOJ lawyer they already got rid of, for being honest. Trump's own Solicitor General, John Sawyer, and if you don't know who, I think the more correct pronunciation is Sauer. And if you ever are like, hey, I don't know who the Solicitor General is, I'll tell you right now how you'll know him when you hear him. He sounds a lot like RFK Jr. when he talks. Like, you'll know if you ever run into the Solicitor General speaking because you will immediately cover your ears. And he admitted that it was a mistake. Do you know who John Sauer is and how he got his new job as Solicitor General? That's the guy that argued in front of the Supreme Court for Trump's immunity case that John Roberts was going to hand him anyways. When Trump was granted the immunity of a king, that's why John Sauer is now the Solicitor General, because he is who argued in front of the Supreme Court. Just know that. But yeah, these are examples of 4 different people admitting that it was an administrative error and he should never have been sent to El Salvador. So it's very strange for Caroline to continue pathologically lying as if none of this is documented as a researcher, primary document. These are primary resources. It's not Fox News, which we would refer to as a secondary resource, just that allows pathological lies. These are court documents. These are lawyers beholden to the ethics of the bar who are also under oath saying the truth. Why is this not starting? Am I losing my mind?
The New York Times Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth back in the news about staffers had to be dismissed and a second signal chat that took place. Where's the president stand on this?
The president stands strongly behind Secretary Hegseth, who is doing a phenomenal job leading the Pentagon. And this is what happens when the entire Pentagon is working against you and working against the monumental change that you are trying to implement. Secretary Hegseth was nominated for this position because he is standing up for the war fighter, the men and women in uniform who are putting their lives on the line to protect our country and our homeland. And unfortunately, there have been people at that building who don't like the change the secretary is trying to bring, so they are leaking and they are lying to the mainstream media. We've seen this game played before. The secretary is doing a tremendous job, and the president stands strongly behind him.
From page.
Let me get this straight, Caroline, what is happening? Every day her face looks... I'm really concerned about her. She's 27. Where does her face go from here? That's what we need to be asking ourselves. There's nowhere to go from here. I guess, and I'm going to say this because I read too much and I don't want to scare everyone, but do you know what happens if you want to dissolve all the filler in your face? because this happens. There's there's articles, you can look this up because I'm not making it up and I wouldn't even know about this. I've never gotten even Botox. But I'm talking about filler now. If you get too much filler in your face and then you want to dissolve it, then you become like a 29-year-old who gets a facelift. Because it expands your face. Once you dissolve the filler, then your face just hangs down and you have to get a facelift. So, just saying, she maybe needs to think about that before she continues doing whatever is happening, because it seems like a bad idea. Oh, I don't know why I put this in here before I go on to the scary egg hunt and all of Pete Hegseth's lies, but look at Tesla stock. How do you guys think it's going? This is just the last week. I don't think it's going great for Elmo. What does that mean there at the end when it just goes straight down? Is that good or bad? It looks like, I think it's going bad. I don't know. It looks like really took a dive there in the last day. Jesus. I don't think, looks like investors aren't feeling great about the earnings report tomorrow. I don't know. That's why Elmo's getting, and there's an article, there's a Washington Post exclusive today about Elmo like planning his exit from Doge. Yeah, I think he's lost enough at this point and needs to run. Like truly. And by the way, thank you for the hat. Appreciate it so much. Let's get to 400K. Keep tapping the screen. I wanted to say, before I play a series of lies from Peter Hegseth, that I don't know what KKK Caroline is talking about or why she continues telling these very obviously fact-checkable lies. But let me help you. It doesn't matter if every single person in the Department of Defense was leaking information. None of those people could force Pete Hegseth to make a signal chat and add his wife to it and release war plans. Same thing with Mike Waltz and his contacts being sucked up in there, and somehow Jeffrey Goldberg, an editor from The Atlantic, being added to a signal chat where war plans are being discussed. No amount of leakers could make Mike Waltz add an Atlantic editor to a signal chat, because let me help you, the signal chat shouldn't exist, period. So it doesn't matter how many people they fire, what lies Caroline makes up, what Trump says, what Pete Hegseth says. Nobody, and by the way, I just want to be very clear about something. None of that could happen on a Department of Defense device. He did all this from his personal cell phone. Now, you tell me, if you were, I don't know, Chinese intelligence, if you were KGB, whose cell phone, if you could hack someone's personal cell phone easily, who would be the number one person you would, I mean, I don't know, maybe you would hack the head of the military. But, when that was General Milley wouldn't be, an idiot and have signal chats with war plans on his personal cell phone. That's what Pete Hegseth did. It doesn't matter how many people said, hey, I was in that chat. None of them created it. None of them took Pete Hegseth's personal cell phone and created a signal chat about military war plans that could have endangered the lives of American men and women. And however much misdirection, and let me tell you, MAGA, if you fall for this, you're not very smart. There's only two people that should be fired, Mike Waltz and Pete Hegseth. There's no way they did it. Guilty. Who took their wife, who has no security clearance, into defense meetings in Brussels, in Belgium? Pete Hegseth, who continues to give people access to information that, let's say, I don't know, if you were like that kid who's spending the rest of his Jake Teixeira, he's going to be in jail for like decades for adding some stuff to a Discord chat. What Pete Hegseth's doing is criminal. And then we have to listen to low intelligence people like trying to distract us from a very simple fact. I'm sorry, did Pete Hegseth use his personal cell phone as the head of the Department of Defense and discuss war plans? Okay, that's it. He needs to go. So does Mike Waltz. No matter how many other people you fire, he still needs to go. He still sucks at his job. He's still incompetent. None of that changes. It's so weird listening to these people try to distract people from things. Like, none of that changes any of the facts of this situation. And here's this sad Easter egg event that was so weird.
Ask the Houthis how much dysfunction there's none. Pete's doing a great job. Everybody's happy with him. We have the highest recruitment numbers I think we've had in 28 years. No, he's doing a great job. It's just fake news. They just bring up stories. I guess it sounds like disgruntled employees. You know, he was put there to get rid of a lot of bad people, and that's what he's doing. So you don't always have friends when you do that.
Should he stop using that?
Ask the Houthis how much dysfunction.
So a series of lies. Like, what are you talking? So again, whatever you're saying, hey, the military has great recruitment numbers. That does not matter if the guy in charge of the Department of Defense is putting people's lives in danger by creating group chats with his barber and his wife and his personal lawyer and whoever else. None of that. Again, that's cool. Thank you for sharing that information with us. That still doesn't mean that Pete Hegseth's not incompetent. Again, this is a children's egg finding event where they're yelling this stuff, which was very weird. Oh, sorry. I don't know why I screenshotted that twice.
What do you want to say, sir, about the signal chat controversy?
You know, what a big surprise that a few leakers get fired and suddenly a bunch of hit pieces come out from the same media that peddled the Russia hoax. Won't give back their Pulitzers. They got Pulitzers for a bunch of lies. And
can't, because recently, since I started debating again, I can't let this pass. I need to say very clearly, as a historical researcher, I don't care how you feel about the Mueller investigation, how you feel about FISA warrants. I want to be clear, completely separate of the Mueller investigation, multiple intelligence agencies, and most importantly, the congressional record, a bipartisan Senate Judiciary report, conducted their own investigation and concluded that the Trump campaign was working with Russia, and that Russia colluded and has interfered in not just the 2016 election, but every U.S. election hereafter. So it's an 1,000-page Senate Judiciary report that has nothing to do with the FBI, that people were interviewed for under oath, that anybody can read. So right there off the bat, he's like, the same people that made up the Russia hoax. Oh, you mean the independently confirmed collusion, the Trump campaign in Russia that continues to occur? That was then independently confirmed, Russia interfering in our elections by many other intelligence agencies. And I'm talking about also ones from other countries. So, but imagine being this much of a liar. And again, I don't care how many people you fired. They didn't take your private cell phone and make you create a signal chat and give your wife war plans. You made those decisions. Look at his face.
Pulitzers for a bunch of lies. And on hoaxes, time and time and time again. And as they peddle those lies, no one ever calls them on it. See, this is what the media does. They take anonymous sources from disgruntled former employees, and then they try to slash and burn people and ruin their reputations. Not going to work with me, because we're changing the Defense Department, putting the Pentagon back in the hands of warfighters, and anonymous smears from disgruntled former employees on old news doesn't matter. So I'm happy to be here at the Easter egg roll with my dad and my kids, because, you know, this is what we're doing it for. These kids right here. This is why we're fighting the fake news media. This is why we're fighting slash and burn Democrats. This is why we're fighting hoaxsters. This group, this group right here, full of hoaxsters that peddle anonymous sources from leakers with axes to grind, and then you put it all together as if it's some news story, And when we know it, we know exactly what it is. So I'm really proud of what we're doing for the president, fighting hard across the board, and I'm going to go roll some Easter eggs with my kids. Thank you very much. I have spoken to the president, and we are going to continue fighting on the same page all the way. Come on, guys.
There's his third wife who had an affair with him, who was his Fox News producer, that's the one who's on the Signal chat getting war plans. Pete had a different wife who was hiding in closets and had a safe word she would text to people when she got terrified. Yeah, that was the second wife who also during that time, Pete, the police report had to be filed because Pete also was credibly accused of raping a woman. It's only 25 pages. It's a terrifyingly disgusting read if anyone wants to check it out. But yeah, this is the third wife who was his Fox News producer, and she was impregnated while he was married to his second wife. Just being clear, that's why these gaggle of children, they really must be learning some really great ethics and morals from daddy, what's standing there watching him pathologically lie. What a great family. I'm just making sure we get the timeline. That's not the second wife. This is the Fox News producer that was impregnated while he was married to his second wife. Just want to make sure we're clear on that. Because, the second wife is the one who would hide in closets and had a safe word that she would text her sister-in-law. Yeah, that's the second wife. This is the third. Just making sure we're clear on who all these people are. And yes, Aaron Rubar did point out that he has one sideburn. Something happened to one of Pete's sideburns. No one knows why there's only one. No one can be sure, but there is only one sideburn. But isn't this a very weird place to be litigating this in front of your children at an Easter egg hunt? Very strange.
President Trump, do you remain confident in Hegseth? Do you remain confident in Pete Hegseth?
Oh, no.
President Trump, I'm sorry.
Why do you even ask a question like that? We have recruitments that's at an all-time high, the spirit and the armed forces. Great confidence.
President Trump, you're sure.
Why would you even ask me that? Oh, let me help you. Nothing that we're talking about has to do with the answer you gave. Why don't you answer the question? Should the head of the Department of Defense use their personal cell phone and put the lives of people conducting military operations in danger by sharing it with their third wife and their personal lawyer and whoever the F else? No. The answer is no, Trump. Why don't you try starting with the truth for once? Oh, here's another one. This clip is from the Tennessee Holler. I like how they put stuff on the top.
Everybody's happy with him. We have the highest recruitment numbers I think we've had in 28 years. No, he's doing a great job. It's just fake news. They just bring up stories. I guess it sounds like disgruntled employees. He was put there to get rid of a lot of bad people, and that's what he's doing. So you don't always have friends when you do that.
Should he stop using that?
And I just want to clarify for anyone who's wondering, why won't Trump throw this guy under the bus? It's very simple. Trump does not want competence, right? And let me help you, MAGA. This is for MAGA men. I'm just helping you out. You guys like to talk about DEI. Every DEI hire in the Biden administration was overqualified for their position. Overqualified. Everyone in Trump's cabinet, and I'm challenging you right now. Find me someone who's qualified. Find me. Who is it? Find me someone in Trump's cabinet who is qualified to have their job. Or how about this? Let's not even go with qualified. Find me someone who's not underqualified. Who's anywhere, who has not one mediocre white man in Trump's cabinet is qualified. They all just have one thing in common. They are dumb enough to pledge undying loyalty, not to the Constitution. That's what normal people in the military do. They pledge loyalty to the Constitution. These people pledge loyalty to Trump. If you're ever wondering, why would Trump keep this guy around? Because Trump doesn't want people who are smart. Trump doesn't want people who are proficient at their jobs. He wants people that are dumb enough to follow him blindly into the abyss. That's what he wants. This is Trump's ideal employee. You are looking at him. It's not about competence. General Milley was unbelievably competent. General Milley was unbelievably intelligent. And you know what that did? That got in Trump's way. This is the ideal Trump employee. So MAGA, let me help you. None of you are qualified. No one Trump hired are qualified. Miss me with the DEI embarrassment. This is DUI hires. I saw that's going around. I didn't make that up. People are saying that. It's true. This is Trump's DUI hires. The more incompetent, the better. The extreme mediocrity welcome. Dumb enough to follow Donald Trump, hired. Blind loyalty to someone that couldn't find their way out of a paper bag, hire him right now. Amazing. If you think that I have to hear you talking about if brown and black people are qualified for their jobs, I'll give you a research project, MAGA. Look at every single person that was in the job Trump has them in now, and then look at who Biden had in the same job and compare their resumes. You tell me who's qualified for their jobs. Spoiler alert, it's not the mediocre white men failing up underneath Donald Trump. You guys are hypocrites and liars. That's just a fact. Or you're, I don't know, uninformed and have no idea what's going on. You can choose. I don't know which one it is, but I'm telling you right now, the brown and black people that Biden hired, they were overqualified for their jobs. You guys just have bumbling idiots wandering around promising Trump, no matter what you tell me to do, I'll do it. Those aren't qualifications. That's idiocy. Exactly. And people are always like, well, why is Pete Hegseth not get fired? Why would Trump want to fire him? This is what he wants. Idiots. Idiots that have blind loyalty to him. This is the perfect person. You're not special. You're just dumb enough. Oh, and I always like to show this, and I should have showed this earlier, but since it's coming up now in this presentation, let's talk about it, because this is now, I think, the fourth clip I've played because Pennsylvania, I do like to remind all of you that you voted for Trump, and this is now the fourth clip I've played in the last month of huge companies who are firing people as a result of Trump's tariffs. Great job, swing state. Keep up the great work.
Well, now to the layoffs, shifting into high gear at Mack Trucks. The automaker says it plans to lay off as many as 350 workers at its Lehigh Valley Operations Center near Allentown in July. Action News reporter Jessica Cartalia is live at the Mack plant in Lower Macungie Township. Jess, Mack says President Trump's tariffs are the driving force for the company's decision to trim its workforce.
Yeah, well, Christy, some are blaming those tariffs and others are saying, no, the company's actually been in trouble for quite some time. Regardless, those layoffs will begin in July.
It's not a good situation for us.
10% of the Mack Trucks employees in Lower Macungie Township just learned they will soon be without a job. The company is blaming a slowdown in the heavy-duty truck market, saying orders continue to be negatively impacted by market uncertainty about freight rates and demand, possible regulatory changes, and the impact of tariffs.
We have people that are still in a training center learning jobs, and they found out they were getting laid off.
Timothy Herzog is the shop steward for Mack's union employees.
So we kind of figured it was going to hit us at some point. We have just launched a brand new vehicle. With the tariffs, the price of the truck had to increase twice this year already, and customers are starting to pull some orders.
Republican Congressman Ryan McKenzie says Mack Trucks relies heavily on government subsidies and was already in a tough financial position prior to news of tariffs on.
Stop, Ryan. Stop lying for Trump. I want to say this. Someone just asked me, where's a good news source? It's really hard to get correct information. I mean, and I say this all the time. Like my degree was in history. To make extra money in college, I was a researcher for my professors. So it really doesn't matter. Like I say this all the time. One of the things that annoys me most is when I'm debating MAGA and they're like, oh, where'd that come from? CNN? Oh, CNN, they laugh maniacally like CNN can't give correct information. The point is not like all media is a what we call a secondary source, right? It's not a primary source. It's not the highest level of factual information. Your job is when you hear something, right? Like I don't care if I get news from Newsmax, Fox, I don't care if I get it from MSNBC, NBC, CBS, wherever. If I need to then go look for primary sources of information. I need to confirm it, right? You can also use secondary sources to confirm. If you hear something on Newsmax, okay, then look, what are other media outlets saying, right? If multiple sources are reporting the same thing, if it's a viable news source, then there will be links to primary information. If they're saying something happened, there would be a link to, I don't know, a court document or the congressional record, things that would be considered primary sources to prove, hey, I'm not just saying things. Like Fox says a lot of things. They don't actually back it up with then primary sources, right? But I will give some advice, like the independent news sources, and this, I could say this in my opinion, because I'm not saying there's independent news sources on the right that are ridiculous, but independent news sources such as ProPublica. If you don't understand what ProPublica is, look them up and follow them, right? A lot of the people who now work at ProPublica, like, I think her name's Ginger Rogers. I hope I don't get that wrong. But she won a Pulitzer Prize. Like, she runs all of the investigative journalism out of ProPublica. These are brilliant Pulitzer Prize winning journalists who are working with not to saying they're not being paid, but it's not for profit. When I see it has to do with the profits, right? They don't care about the truth. They care about handing profits to shareholders. So independent media sources like ProPublica, like The Guardian, like PBS, like NPR, places where they're not necessarily beholden to shareholders, I find much more accurate than sources who are like, oh, it doesn't matter what the truth is. This is about profits for shareholders. But again, you can get accurate information at times from Fox or from the Daily Post. It's just a matter of you need to just check, right? If it's accurate, multiple news sources will be reporting the same information, right? And there will be hyperlinks to primary sources if it's real, right? It's, simple Google searches. If you see multiple sources reporting the same thing, that increases the percentage chance that information then is accurate, right? Like my job as a researcher, and before I start showing you guys things, is to make sure how accurate is this, right? I cannot say I'm being wrong because as a woman, I have to be 300% accurate to get the same respect as a mediocre white man failing up in this country. So yeah, like that's what I'm doing. I'm just trying to make sure how accurate is this information. And like, whilst I don't love Jeff. Let me give you an example, right? I don't love billionaires consolidating wealth. I think what Jeff Bezos does to Amazon workers as far as labor law violations and refusing to let them organize is vile. But do I think the Washington Post has some very intelligent reporters? What I like to say is don't follow the publication necessarily, follow the reporters, right? There's like Aaron Blake for the Washington Post. Follow him on Blue Sky. Follow him on X. Great reporter. Oh my God. My favorite reporter, I can't remember his last name. I hate myself for that, but I'll probably remember tomorrow and I'll tell you guys. But like, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Love that publication. That's the main publication in Atlanta. I don't want to pay for it though. So I found like one of my favorite reporters and I follow him on Blue Sky and on X so that he reports on what he's writing for free. And then I see it that way. Right. So I like to follow journalists. Also, and I probably should have started with this, so I apologize. If you don't have the app Substack, this is where real reporting is happening now. If you want to follow reporters, really good independent journalists like Jim Acosta left CNN because they were harassing him about being honest. Jim Acosta now has his own like little show on Substack. Follow Jim Acosta on Substack. Follow independent news sources on Substack. It's amazing. I'm on Substack too, so you can follow me there. But like, yeah, there's this whole cross section of brilliant reporters forming on Substack and great minds. And that's where I would get my news because, and like you'll follow one and then it will lead you to another and it will become this like web of information. And it's so follow Robert Reich on Substack. He writes amazing articles on Substack. I love Substack. So that way, if you're looking for one app where you can find a bunch of brilliant minds just churning out information more or less for free, like you can pay for some information, but a lot of it's cool. I've never seen that before. That's the ADHD. Was that a worm in an apple? What is happening? I love that. That was awesome. But thank you so much for the gift. We're almost at 400K too. But yeah, Judd Legume, the guy who made Doge.muskwatch.com, who's just driving Elon Musk crazy, auditing his lies on the Doge wall over seats. That guy's on Substack and he's brilliant. And then like once you trust me, once you start building a network and you know the reporters by name, they move between publications, right? Like I know a lot of the people that now work at ProPublica. ProPublica is 100% free. I read every article that comes out of ProPublica. That's a good starting point. My name on Substack, and again, whether you're watching right now on Twitch, you're watching on YouTube, or you're watching on TikTok, in my bios, there's a Linktree link, and it has all of you can follow me all across the internet, but pretty much everywhere, including Substack. I'm a girl has no name, just like I am on TikTok with 2 Z's. Same thing. But yeah, you can find the links in my bio and it will take you to my Substack and everything. So yeah, and it's actually kind of fun. Like once you start learning and you start loving reporters for who they are, like Midas Touch is great too, and Midas Touch is on Substack. Like so, and if I don't say that independently, but Midas Touch, again, don't recommend you hang out on X, but they are on X a lot. But yeah, you can find Midas Touch on Substack and all the people that work for Midas Touch as well. What has anyone heard about the cancellation of the Endangered Species Act? That's been happening for a long time. That's not new, but that's just more of Trump's deregulation. I would be more concerned about the fact that Trump's putting legalize forever chemicals and overriding state laws like California's and Maine so they can shove forever chemicals back in packaging and foods. I mean, I love animals. Don't get me wrong. I do. But God, it's just one more deregulation thing that Trump's doing for corporations and rich people. I know cetaceans are my favorite animals. I love orcas and dolphins and any type of cetacean, which the Endangered Species Act also affects them. So it drives me insane. Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw last week. I don't even want to get into this. Sometimes I don't talk about the environment stuff because it sickens me. Trump's to breathe before I say it. Trump is chopping down like all the trees on federal lands. He says there will be less fires. Yeah, less oxygen to as well. Don't worry about it though. Everything's gonna be fine. Did you see last week? We're gonna start overfishing like protected fishing areas now. Like. Oh my God, I can't. So, like anything Trump can deregulate and destroy, anything a corporation will bribe him, any lobbyist that bribes Trump, he will deregulate it. He's destroying everything. Literally. He's destroying everything. And he thinks it's great. But MAGA thought that he was going to deregulate for small businesses. Small businesses are going out of business. It's so weird he's not saving them. Oh, yes, which brings me to a really good point. I want to show you this video of a woman who is suing Trump because it is very important. And I like the way she says this because it is true. If I was a small business who was paying millions in tariffs, I too would go out fighting. If you're going to go out of business, may as well go out of business fighting.
More than 70% of America's small businesses import goods.
In MAGA, remember when you kept telling me in debates incorrectly that Trump was deregulating for small businesses? Why are they all disappearing? Why are more monopolies forming than ever before? Why are more antitrust laws being ignored? Why are billionaires consolidating wealth and small businesses are disappearing? It's the weirdest thing. I thought Trump cared about you all.
More than 70% of America's small businesses import goods or materials from foreign countries. That's according to a recent survey from FedEx. Well, one owner spoke exclusively to CBS Mornings about how she is fighting back with a high-profile lawsuit against what she calls an unlawful trade policy.
Over the last 17 years, Emily Lay has built her American dream, a small business selling planners and stationery in the U.S. by manufacturing them in China.
I would love to make them here, but the U.S. simply doesn't have the infrastructure.
So when President Trump announced his new tariffs on China, Lay, the founder and CEO of Simplified, crunched the numbers on her signature $64 planner.
If it were going to completely cover the tariffs, we would have to raise prices to $82.
Do you think people are going to buy this for $82? With all due respect?
No, I wouldn't.
That's why the mother of three has decided to take action.
You're suing the president. Why?
Because he created these tariffs without the involvement of Congress. And Congress...
Let me help you, MAGA. Let me walk you through your own idiocy. You remember how you guys kept saying, no taxation without representation. I don't want to pay taxes. Tariffs are taxes that Trump is unilaterally deciding should be in place, gone around Congress, declared national emergencies to do so. That is taxation without representation. Do you understand why the American Revolution happened? Because of tariffs, right? On what? What was the Boston Tea Party, MAGA? I know American education failed you, but you can do it. They were tariffs on tea that people in the United States decided they weren't going to pay. That's why we fought for freedom, was to get out from under tariffs. That now you're like, yeah, because you can't do math and you don't understand that you're being taxed without representation. And these are the largest taxes without representation in history. The Great Depression was caused by Smoot-Hawley tariffs, which was less than this. And you're like, yeah, everything's going to be fine. Trump's saving us. You're not very smart. It doesn't make sense. Oh, and just one more thing on how America was formed. Do you know how we all got here or why? Do you understand history at all? I know the answer is no, so you can just say no. King George III, an English king. Do you know how most of the English-speaking world was populated? Penal colonies. People were removed from England without due process. They were put on ships in the dead of night and floated different places. Like Australia, it was a penal colony. It was a jail. There was no due process, and they just loaded you onto a ship, and they just floated you somewhere, and they're like, help us start a new world. That's why we're fighting for due process, because now there are planes where people are being disappeared without due process. Are you getting it now? But you'd have to understand history to understand why this woman is suing Donald Trump, because of taxation without representation, what you guys used to ironically say you didn't want.
Had they had a chance to be involved, I would have then had the opportunity to make my voice heard. That didn't happen.
Lay filed this complaint against President Trump, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, and the acting CBP Commissioner Pete Flores, alleging that they have illegally used emergency power to impose tariffs on China.
We are cheap red and black checker pieces in an international trade war board game. We are just at the mercy of whatever is decided next without congressional involvement.
Lay has a lot on the line.
That means we're paying $18 to the U.S. government.
Simplified employs 9 workers, all women. And since Trump's first round of tariffs was implemented in 2018, she says she's paid roughly $1.2 million in tariffs over those 8 years. That amount is now skyrocketing.
Over the next 12 months, my company is looking at paying anywhere between $830,000 and $1 million in tariffs.
President Trump has said, short-term pain for long-term gain. What's your response to that?
We can't survive the short-term pain, and especially without any sort of plan in place to create the infrastructure here.
In response to Lay's lawsuit, a White House spokesperson told CBS News President Trump has broad authority to
more than 7
not mean to do that. I feel like I ruined it. Hold on. I'll find
chance to.
Wait.
That means we're paying $18 to the U.S. government.
Simplify. $1 billion in tariffs over those 8 years. That amount is now skyrocketing.
Over the next 12 months, my company is looking at paying anywhere between $830,000 and $1 million in tariffs.
President Trump has said, short-term pain for long-term gain. What's your response to that?
We can't survive the short-term pain, and especially without any sort of plan in place to create the infrastructure here.
In response to Lay's lawsuit, a White House spokesperson told CBS News President Trump has broad authority to impose tariffs to address issues of national emergency. The Trump administration looks forward to victory in court. Lay says she's ready for the fight.
If this is the end of my American dream, I'm going to go down swinging.
It's funny how it's always women who are standing up to Trump and weird, mediocre men who are either too scared or have no idea what's going on. It's very strange. I respect that woman. I don't know if stationary is the future, personally, but hey, you do you. But I agree. If I was going to lose everything I had, I would fight too. Why not? May as well. Yeah, and exactly. Nothing about our tariffs is a national emergency. And actually, if you want to hold somebody, a Democrat, accountable for something, that was when Chuck Schumer needed to shut down the government. Like, I went over and over this. That poison pill and that continued resolution was that Trump could continue terrorizing us with these nonsensical tariffs through the end of the fiscal year. That was why we needed to shut the government down for small businesses everywhere that can't afford to pay Trump bribes to get exceptions. This was why. And do you remember what? I just want to remind everyone, I could go find the clips because God knows I have thousands of clips and all of these presentations saved. Do you guys remember when everyone lost their mind on Chuck Schumer when he voted to keep the government open? And then that was like Friday. And we watched it live on this live. And then on Sunday, because God knows people were like, that's it. Chuck Schumer needs to go, which is still Chuck Schumer needs to go. I'm still confused why he's even hanging around. He should probably just retire and let somebody else do things for the rest of the time and vote whenever he needs to. But remember, he showed up on Sunday morning political shows. He was on Kristen Welker's show. And remember what he said? He said, now, if Trump we're not in a crisis. That's what he said. And he said, now, if Trump defies the Supreme Court, then something's wrong. That's what he said. Look what has happened since that idiot said that. There is no more. Chuck Schumer must go. And again, representative democracy, if the people in Chuck Schumer's district want to elect him, that is their choice. He should not be reelected, in my opinion, but he certainly can never be in a position of leadership again. He's incapable of leading. He does not have what it takes. Period. Like that. I mean, that was the only moment when we had any leverage, and he shot the bed. And I will never forget it, and I will never forgive him for that, because that was the only time we could have done anything of consequence. And now, and I mean this, I don't care if you're MAGA or if you're far left, small business owners will not survive what Trump is doing. And that's the point. Consolidation of wealth at the top of the economy, and us to be all beholden to feudal lords. The point is for us to not survive. The point is us to foreclose on mortgages. The point of us is to lose everything and for that wealth to be transferred to the top of the economy. And because Chuck Schumer already has money, I don't think he could correctly identify that. And I will never forgive him for what he has done, no matter what anyone says. Oh, yeah. And at his book tour, he was very focused on that book tour, which, again, nobody cares, Chuck. Nobody will ever care about a thing you say again. Nobody can take you seriously because you had one thing you needed to do and you shat the bed. I want to say one more thing. And then because I've been live since 5 a.m. with Facts, I think I need to probably go take a nap. I want to and if you have no idea what I'm talking about, that's fine. And I could have recorded clips, but I didn't because I just want to talk about it because this is like, I guess Democratic business. Like, I agree with Fax when Fax says, because like however left anyone is that's listening to this, I'm left of you, like I lived in like communal societies in the Amazon for a while. Like I was never coming back to civilization type thing where real communism happens outside the bounds of society. And so I'll just say, yeah, I agree with when Facts Still Matters as like, the Democratic Party is kind of the vehicle, it's how we get where we want to go, but it's not like our vehicle of choice or however he says it. I do agree with that. But I don't know if you've read about this, and if you haven't, after I say this, look it up. Like whoever's running the Democratic Party, his name is Ken Martin, and then like a guy underneath him is David Hogg, who, he's a younger guy. And there's this like fight going on publicly. If anyone's not looked into it, right? There's a fight going on publicly, like sort of about, I'm trying to think of how to word or how to get this right. Like David Hogg is a younger guy. If I don't remember, I think he's the guy that like, do you guys remember the video of Marjorie Taylor Greene, like chasing down a kid who had testified before Congress, who had been involved in like the Parkland pew-pewing? That's David Hogg. So he's like a young guy who's like a progressive and very passionate. And then Ken Martin is like the older, staunch, like moderate Democrat who's like, we got to support incumbents. And there's this battle going on right now with David Hogg saying, I'm going to support people who want to unseat incumbents and primaries. And Ken Martin being like, we don't have time for this. We just need to like take back the country in the midterms or authoritarianism will take over. I just want people to know that that's happening and to think about it because, right, two things can be true at once, right? I don't think the future of the Republican Party, and I've talked about this as somebody who's a historical researcher, what you need to understand, the danger of moderate Democrats, that is the rise of Hitler was because of moderates in Europe, ignoring the suffering of the working class. That's the reality, right? Centrism is dangerous because it pushes uneducated groups of people into the arms of right-wing authoritarian extremists who believe, oh, he said he's going to help me, right? The rise of Hitler was due to centrism in Europe and the ignoring of the suffering of people in the lower class. And if you don't believe me, you can look this up. But yeah, I mean, so I will always say I do not like moderate Democrats. I don't like I don't like fence riders and the status quo, period. I will always respect people on the fringes more, pick a side and move things. And also another reason, healthcare is a basic human right. Bernie Sanders is very correct. We're the only country in the developed world who has to pledge sell our life force to a corporation to be able to go to the doctor. I don't want to ever hear from people who aren't talking about universal healthcare. That is the mother effing future. But that being said, I want to say this because that's one argument, right? Do I think David Hogg is right? Do I think we need to move towards progressivism? And not just, it's not that he's talking about a progressive agenda. He's talking about people that want to affect change. He's talking about the AOCs, right? Like he's talking about Nancy Pelosi with a broken hip and like, what the was she in Europe where she fell down the stairs and broke her hip? And with a broken hip in Europe, she's whipping votes for what's his name and stopping AOC from taking over the Oversight and Accountability Committee. That's what I'm talking about. Doesn't mean I don't like the guy with throat cancer who's now running the Oversight and Accountability. I mean, you have throat cancer, maybe take a 5. But you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I'm just saying, like, there are people that have what it takes. And I said, people that, I don't know, have been raised by malignant narcissists or for whatever reason are young enough and have grown up in Trumpism to understand what it takes to fight, like the Jasmine Crockett's, right? The Greg Casar's, the Maxwell Frosts. And do these people need to wait? Right? And I'm talking about other people who want to run and unseat these incumbents. Right? Do these people need to wait for their seat at the table or to take over a committee and lead it when those are in my opinion, those are the voices that have the fight in them, right? Like, So that is, and I'm saying this, that is a truth. In that way, I agree with David Hogg. I understand what he's saying. But let me present the counter argument. And again, the problem is two things can be true at once, and I don't know what the right answer is. I just want to present this to you and make you think about it. Okay? Here's the counter argument. And what I always say whenever I've gotten some fights with people who are say, I don't like Hakeem Jeffries. Like Hakeem Jeffries' job, if you don't, it took me, and believe me, I didn't understand how brilliant Nancy Pelosi was for a long time. I was very annoyed by her. I didn't understand what she was up to. And then once I finally got it. And I was like, oh, Speaker of the House, like, you can't be progressive. You're a babysitter. You're a cat wrangler. Your job is cat wrangling. That's literally what you're doing. Your job is to count votes. Your job is to make sure you are always on the right side of the vote and that you have like a consensus. And actually, Hakeem Jeffries is doing he's leading a coalition effectively. But let's say there's this argument going between Ken Martin and David Hogg, and Hakeem Jeffries' position in it, because I saw him talking about it, he said, I'm going to support every incumbent, which then immediately I was like, I don't think I like him for saying that, right? Like, part of me agrees with David Hogg. I want the loudest, most passionate people who are going to fight the hardest. That's who I want. I don't care if they're new. I don't care if they're old, but I need people who want to fight. And this is less about the House for me. I think it's more about the Senate even. Like, we need some new blood in the GD Senate. We've got some people who've shown they have fight, like Chris Murphy. You can stay. Okay, Chris Van Hollen, you're looking like you could stay, but either prove to us you have a pulse or get the F out. I'm sorry. We've got people. I'm not sure if they're with us among the living in the Senate. And I'm not saying, and there are people like that in the House as well, but you know what I'm saying. But again, here's the converse. What Hakeem Jeffries' job is to hold the majority in the House. And I've said this because people blamed him when we didn't hold the House. Actually, we gained seats in the House, and I've said this and I've asked people to research it, and I've explained it a couple of times on my 66 episodes of the People's Receipts. We would have the House if we had the Supreme Court in North Carolina. And that's why Elon Musk spent $20 million trying to buy the Supreme Court in Wisconsin. If we had the majority on the Supreme Court in North Carolina, we would hold the House right now. Period. We did take the House. It's just there are conservatives that hold supermajorities in state legislatures and Supreme Courts that are gerrymandering the F out of maps. Right? And if we had lost the Wisconsin Supreme Court, I would have very bad news for you for the perspective of us taking back the House. So I said this one time when I was giving my speech, like, it's not that I give a F about Hakeem Jeffries, because I don't. I just think he's effectively doing a job that is never going to be pretty. You think we're going to replace him with someone else and they're going to be some progressive? No, his job is babysitter, cat wrangler. It's never, whoever leads us in the House, it's never going to be pretty. It's always going to be looking like they're riding the fence, because their job is to hold a bunch of people with different opinions together and get everyone voting. It's not pretty. You're like wheeling and dealing. You're just like promising people things so they'll vote with you. It's ugly. So, but here's my point. This comes from Mark Elias, who's the guy, the Mark Elias law firm who holds, he does all the voting rights challenges in the courts. And I listen to him. He runs, if you ever want to follow Mark Elias, he's a genius. Democracydocket.com. That's how you can follow him. You can follow him on Blue Sky. And I listened to him give this speech once, and it really made me think. And what he said was, which this is just as true as David Hogg's point, is that the difference between the most progressive of progressives that we will put in Congress and the most moderate Democrat in Congress is this minuscule compared to the difference between a conservative, between losing that seat. So while we fight between is progressive enough, is moderate enough, while we fight internally, If we lose a seat to a conservative, we may never recover, that we will lose democracy, right? The real fight is against authoritarianism, and that's how we need to see it. And also, one more part of this, because again, all I'm trying to do is make you think. There's not necessarily a right answer to this. That's what I'm trying to get you to see, is when I was really young and I didn't understand things, I used to think every single seat in Congress should be progressive. And then the smarter I got and the more research I did and the more I understood Capitol Hill, I saw how ignorant that was, right? What it takes, the type of person that can be elected in, I don't know, Laredo, Texas, who I hate the guy who's there, right? The Democrat, he's the most moderate. Even Trump likes him. But there are some seats and some populations of people that it will take a moderate Democrat to hold that seat. If you're not, Henry Cuellar, Nancy, Nancy. People are brilliant in this live. Hate that guy. But it takes a Henry Cuellar to hold that seat, right? I mean, he's got to be the corrupt, slimiest Democrat we have, but he's holding that seat, and they will never elect a progressive there. And it took me a long time to learn that lesson, right? Like, you have to understand the topography, where you are, and what type of person can be elected. And unfortunately, it will take some moderate Democrats that maybe I am sickened by to hold some seats, and that is better than a conservative. Right? Like, we have to look at what matters is, I don't care who and how we hold each seat that will give us a majority in Congress that will allow us to stop this tariff madness and save us from a recession. But that's my advice, is think there's actually no right answer. In my perfect young dream, like David Hogg, who's kind of, I don't think he fully understands yet. Yes, I would love to have 435 AOCs in the House. But the older and smarter I got, the more I realized is, no, it just, you have to understand the people in each district. And if, we need people to say the right things in the right way to get elected. And that's going to look different in different places, right? It depends on the demographics, the region, all of that. And so anyways, this is just something to think about, because if you haven't heard about this argument that's going on in the Democratic Party, it's going on. But the answer is everyone's right. And the more important answer is you have to understand what it takes to hold a district in Laredo, Texas. Henry Cuellar is an absolute slime ball who I think is under indictment. But I mean, if that's what it takes, you go, Henry, because the only thing worse is to lose that seat. And that's what people have to understand. And what I've learned about New York is, I'm disgusted by all these people who are accepting money from AIPAC, but there's a very political Jewish community that if you're not taking money from AIPAC, the chance of being reelected is not great, right? But again, my ideal, I would love to have a bunch of AOCs. No one takes any money from any PACs. And as soon as we all join together and get money out of politics, that can happen. But until then, all I'm saying is, what we are fighting against is the end of democracy. And we can't always be splitting hairs. Whatever it takes, that's what we need to do. Whatever it takes. And I agree. I love Bernie, and I don't know what the right answer is. I think our presidential candidate needs to be progressive, needs to be someone who's talking about healthcare. The one thing everyone in this country needs, I don't care if you're the farthest right fascist, we all need healthcare. Think about it. You can be the farthest right fascist in Canada. You can have the most horrible views. You can be a neo-schmazi. Guess what? You can still go to the effing doctor. If we have one more presidential candidate who is not going to get us healthcare, I will lose my effing mind. We all need healthcare. Everyone, we all need healthcare. You can be a neo-schmazi and go to the doctor. You can be a communist to go to the doctor. We should all be able to go to the doctor separate from our jobs. But anyways, I just want everyone to just think about it, right? It's a complicated argument. And I love that David Hogg has this fight in him. But what is most important in the midterms to me is we have to gain a majority so that we can stop Trump's national emergency nightmare. However, we finally get, I don't even care if they're whoever, we need people with spines who are actively saying, elect me to Congress and I'm going to stop Donald Trump from running this economy into the ground. That's what we need. So I don't care how we get there, but that's what I want to think. But yeah, it's easy to say, let's just get a bunch of AOCs. But there are places like in Kentucky, an AOC is not going to be elected, right? So we have to think about that and think about who's the best candidate. I know martial law is that's what I'm saying. Yeah, martial law could be coming. Maybe there won't even be an election, but I'm going to pretend there's going to be until there's not. But believe me, I am always preparing for the worst. Always in my head. That way I'll never be disappointed. But I will also have hope because trust me, I grew up in very adverse conditions and you have to prepare for the worst. Oh my God, I'm adorable. I'm Daisy Duck. You have to prepare for the worst, but also hope for the best or you'll go insane. So I just want everyone to think about that. What's the right answer, but also how you can get involved, right? Like, how can you help local candidates? Because however we're going to take the House, but not just the House, state legislatures. Look at places like Tennessee and what is happening when these super majorities exist. Our local elections are just as important. Like, if we can all get control of our state legislatures, half the nightmare is over. Yeah, expect the worst, and the only place to go from the bottom. That's some raised in trauma type thinking, but absolutely. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I'm gonna go get some sleep because I've literally been live now for like 8 hours. Tomorrow I'm gonna be live with Matt, USMC Angry Veteran. I'm sure 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern. I'm sure Matt and I will be screaming at each other. So I shall see you. Come join me and Matt tomorrow at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. I shall see you